Don't say I never told you. time I close my eyes, every time I close my every time
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
Welcome in everyone to the PUBG Players Cup. My name is Gibson. I am joined by Chunks to bring you through all the action tonight. And Chunks, play day 1, it's done and dusted. It's in the books. Today is the day where rubber meets the road, and we'll find out who the first 8 teams from North America to be qualified for the first Super Cup will be.
It's certainly an exciting one, obviously at the halfway point of the first Players Cup. It's a lot to play for right now. Qualifying yourself straight through to the next round, it's a big weight off your shoulders, less, intensity to have to play for a longer time. But hey, there's still going to be squads coming in next week that have the opportunity to make their name and make it through to the next round.
I think the big one is the fact as well, once we get some of the big names through to the next round, it gives more opportunity for some of the newer TPP players and teams to have an impact as well, because let's be real, your first event, you come through, you qualify through scrims, and you look at the lobby and you see Falcons, Liquid, Toyo, Working in Silence, Alcudia, and you're just shaking your head like, right, this is what it's going to be like.
Yeah, it's got to be a nerve-wracking one for a lot of these squads, and obviously a couple of those are probably going to qualify if we're looking at the current leaderboards, but, there is still an unknown. There were mixed performances across the board. Some of those partner teams that we would typically expect to do really well fell short in day number 1. I keep wanting to say last week. It feels like an age ago. I miss you guys. But, a couple of these teams, they've fallen short in day number 1. So they need to bring it back today if they want to get that automatic qualification. Otherwise, they're going to be in the same spot next week. And hey, if you can't seal the deal early, can you show that consistency later on? That's something we've got to find out. We've got to find out tonight.
100%, and if you are watching this at home, this is the most open competition that PUBG has ever ran. There will be events on nearly every 2 weeks where you have a qualifier to get a chance of a $139,000 prize pool over the course of the year. If you and your squad want to compete, !register in chat. It'll bring you to the Wasdify website where you can sign you and your team up to take part in the next set of scrims to try qualify for the next Players Cup. And Chunks, it's been a long time since we've had any form of competitive PUBG that's going to be on so frequently over the course of a year.
Yeah, it's good to see, though, obviously when it comes to something like PAS, we have the round of 64, the 32, and then it builds up, and then we have a couple of weeks of action, and then it kind of dies down. But this is going to be a really consistent format going on for a while. It's an opportunity for teams to kind of get practice. You can come in through the weekly scrims, you can make it to the Players Cup, get used to performing against these top teams, and who knows where we could be at the end of the year. We could be seeing a completely different set of squads taking part than what we're seeing tonight.
100%, and this is also a great opportunity to welcome some, third-person perspective players into the competitive scene and give them a taste for it as well. So remember, !register in chat, get your team signed up, and all the information on dates and play days, at least through for the next few months, is available on the website. But that is enough selling. Let's talk about what's happened last night, or on Monday night, and looking forward tonight, Chunks. Looking at our leaderboard, Working in Silence sitting on top spot, they deserve it, right? They were just phenomenal in play day one.
Absolutely. They played really well, and they waited till the end game a lot of the time to be able to strike, which was really nice to see. It shows that it's not all about going kill heavy, but when you actually look at the kill numbers and who is where in the leaderboards, they're only 3 points behind Team Liquid, who they are definitely a kill heavy team. So it really shows just how strong that performance ended up being from them. Striking when the time is right, and that's a big thing that I think teams are maybe needing to adjust to. We saw a lot of fights last week from Al-Qudsiya, I think it was, taking a really early game fight over at Shelter, which probably they shouldn't have done, even though they came out on top. I can't remember off the top of my head who it was against. I think it may have been Toyo. But, you know, a lot of early game battles that, sure, it's high risk, high reward, but you are almost destined to get 1 or 2 players knocked, which, you know, you might be able to get them back up in the early game, but as we get later on into the game and teams and players have been knocked once or twice, the chance of you getting that player back up, very slim, and, you know, the speed that you lose players just goes up massively.
Yeah, and one thing that becomes really apparent when you're watching TPP is how important utility is as well. Like, obviously, it is incredibly important in regular tournaments, but in third-person perspective, it takes on even more of a powerful nature when you consider the fact that you see teams using ridge lines and preparing those nades to toss them over the fray and cause real damage. We saw Al-Qudsiya do it yesterday a few times. But I want to revert back and talk a little bit more again about, you know, the team on the top, working in silence. Chunks, they're top of the leaderboard. They got 30 placement points over 4 maps, which is absolutely insane. But the driving force behind this team, for me, is BL, one of the most up-and-coming players inside of South America. He is so gifted, and I think he really is the next big star up from South America, and not enough people are talking about him.
Yeah, and I think that is the beauty of tonight's event. We get the opportunity to see players that maybe people aren't fully aware of, and we get to see them in a different environment. It's the chance to be able to adapt. It's a chance to be able to thrive. And look, there's some teams that have really been thriving. I mean, in terms of individual players, we've had some insane performances coming out. I mean, 11 kills from Luke 12, 10 from Tig, 9 from Sneak Attack. Really heavy kill performances. I just hope that they're able to keep up the momentum tonight. I mean, right now it seems like the Aussies are taking over.
Yeah, you were quick to point that out when you looked at the stats. Like, Luke 12 obviously playing incredibly well. Tiggleton putting up numbers too. We both know that there's a huge OCE following of PUBG inside of North America, to be honest, because of the players. So I'm sure people will be loving to see that. But another team that I'm excited for, and I think they're a team to keep an eye up on all year long, is Al-Qudsiya. Roth and Rello coming over from Falcons. They decided they stick together, and then bringing in Cowboy and D. I think D, Fadeaway, Monster, whatever name you want to go by is one of the big ones. But we got ourselves a hot drop here by Powergrud Chunks. Luminosity and 55 kicking things off.
I seem to recall this one happened last time that we saw games over on Miramar as well. And remember, it is only one of each map last night, so there's not going to be that opportunity to battle 2 or 3 times for a drop spot. You have to make it count now. And Voxic taking a lot of damage. Sure, he's able to pick up a kill. Still not got a helmet on him. Only just got himself some ammo. It's going to be a tight fight. You have to find that balance, don't you, with these hot drops between being able to get yourself a little bit of loot to be able to actually take the fight and also thinking, okay, we need to finish this off, because all it takes is 1 or 2 players to wrap around and the team's in disarray without any real info.
Well, there's a science to a hot drop as well, and Luminosity to me are the more aggressive of the 2 sides. They've gone with a 2-2 split. Richie B is over on the opposite side, and then you got Voxage and Snakers inside the warehouse. So the whole purpose of this is that you hope that Voxage can hold his own over in the 6th map, while the Bizzler will go on the wide wrap to try and get the flank off. And 55, realizing that this is the case, electing to fall back and reposition themselves. Maybe the plan here, Chunks, is to play the ridgeline, or even what it looks like right now, a full-on reposition.
I mean, when you lose a player early, you do have to rethink the strategy. You can't really take that 4-on-4 fight, because then you are opening up that risk of LG being able to just send a player around and flank, and then everything's up in the air. It does look like they're going to try and retreat. There are some compounds off to the north that they should be able to loot. They're not the highest here. You might not be able to get everything you want, but I'm pretty sure there is a vehicle around there that tends to spawn in, so you got to hope they're going to be able to grab that one, though. Looks like LG, they're confident that they've cleared out the threat. They still have to be careful, have a look around, make sure there's no one lingering, but it looks like they're pretty well looted so far for the early game.
It's, you know what, it's from 55 Esports. It's the lack of confidence. You know, this is a team that's sitting in the bottom half of the leaderboard. Luminosity are as well. Real opportunity to get what you really call double points. You kill somebody in the table alongside you, not only are you getting the kill point, you're preventing that player from having an impact later in the game as well. So, little disappointed in 55 for not, sticking to the fight, but at the same time, you can't blame them. They might be thinking bigger picture, longer term inside this map. So we turn our attention over to our lobby leaders working in silence who spot Falcons rotating past.
Yeah, working in silence, one of those teams that we keep harping on about them, but with good reason, taking first place after last week. Consistent performances throughout the evening. Falcons equally so. It doesn't look like anything's going to kick off between the two of them, but it is worth bearing in mind that there's still another team coming down from the south that are about to rotate through. So working in silence, they could try and set up a choke here, and it's something I always talk about on Miramar. There's a lot more choke points when you get in those vehicle rotations. So if you can grab the high ground early, there's a potential to pick a couple of kills off very easily without any real retaliation. And it seems almost like that's what working in silence are doing right now, grabbing the high ground, looking down, trying to grab that info for right now, as they're already pretty well positioned inside the zone. I'm sure they want to get more aggressive, but there's only so much space in a circle like this.
Yeah, Souls rotating passes. Toyo will take some shots. Oh my god, Peepa, you gotta behave yourself. The Mini 14 with a quick double tap of headshots. And Souls from working in silence has been deleted in the early stages of this game as we have ourselves some South America on South American action.
Nice to see the early game kill coming out here, and it weakens our top team working in silence. Unfortunate for them, but I mean, we've seen them go down to, what, 2 players in some situations and still be able to pull out and get the chicken dinner at the end of things. It's just a question of, okay, how do they adjust the strategy, losing one so early? Alcutia, though, they're going to get themselves a kill as well. They are taking the high ground early. This is a very strong position for the early game, but you have to wonder, even if the circle does come this way, how do you rotate out of it when the time comes? It looks like last resort, though, already taking engagement up against the Falcon. Shrimsy comes out on top, and well, they've got control of the compound with no real threat.
Oh my, you gotta hit those shots when you get the opportunity, and when you don't, Coda Kid will get punished, as will another member of Last Resources. You cannot miss those chances against a team like Falcons, and honestly, it's just a really easy double set of points for Falcons. Oh my god, one of the other newer teams inside the lobby that we got to see in action. Some big moments from 1604 and J08, but I feel like that's a team that really struggled to come to terms with the increase in, I suppose, competitiveness inside of a lobby like this, and they'll find their feet over the course of a year.
I'm sure they will. As we said, there's plenty of time. This is going to be a very consistent tournament going on for a while. Lots of opportunities for teams to fine-tune things. A lot of the time when you look at things like PAS, it all comes down to how teams perform in scrims, and it's not quite the same. And, well, that's a scrim-level performance going out that early, unfortunately. Losing the tires, getting knocked out, flushed right away. Really nice from Banzai to pick themselves up a kill. And this is a squad that struggled last week, so it's good to see them getting some points on the board early.
Yeah, and every kill that they got did seem opportunistic, didn't it, Chunks? It was kills like that, catching a player on a rotate, and we didn't really see enough of them when it came to winning full-on gunfights. Now, what it takes, 1 kill on the board already for Keter as Marcis inside the lobby. High ground being held by Alcudia as he looks to find that knock. Now, you can see Roth has been eliminated, so numbers in the favor of working in silence. Sneak attack will peek on up, but Rello, with the barrel at the ready, will go for a reposition. Utility being thrown this way, and Sneak Attack using that nade to reposition himself here too, Chunks.
Nice little ridge there that Rello's been able to get. Should provide him a little extra cover. It looks like Cowboy right now is just going to be, holding over the top, making sure that nobody from What It Takes is able to push. Rello doesn't seem to have the read that the player has already moved, but he's going to have to make a move himself now, getting third party from behind, throwing down the smokes for cover. He wants to commit onto this, though, which credit to him. I'm not sure whether this is the play for Alcudia, even if there was still Sneak Attack close. It looks like this engagement, though, it's not going to slow down anytime soon. Even if Alcudia want to get in those vehicles, there's a big risk that a player like Ket is going to be able to spot them and maybe catch one out with that front vehicle. DIY getting taken down, though, should be able to heal up, but I think Alcudia, considering how dominant of a position they were in just a couple of minutes ago, are now starting to be a little bit on the back foot and maybe should think about moving, and that seems to be exactly what they're doing.
Never mind Keter, let's talk about the fact that Falcons had an angle onto this too, and you saw damage being dealt by Shrimsy over in this direction. That will force Alcudia to get on the move. circle centers up. It is pretty much, as we can see, chunks around San Martin, La Cabrera, and El Pozo. So 3 of the largest towns inside of the map encompassed by this one. As Cowboy, he will go on his feet, as I'd say, he gets to go on his feet in towards that tree. I was going to make a really bad pun about your feet and having a Lamborghini, but I figured I better not. It's too early in the night for that. Carry on.
Oh, I'm sure they'll pick up later, just like Sparking's able to pick up a kill onto Banzai. Unfortunate, after we gave them props for being able to get that early game point, they might be able to smoke down and pick that player back up. But Sparking just getting peppered. He's already got the read on the second player. This is not great for Banzai. It's a question of how Liquid want to position up now. They're not in a terrible position. They could try and push off of this, try and get a couple of early game kills. And I got to say, with a circle like this, I tend to find it always heads up towards Cobb or towards Crater Fields. At least in my experience, most of the games I've casted, they always shift north when you're not expecting them to. It looks like that third party you were talking about earlier, it's kicked off again. Tiggleton able to get a knock on Torello, and now Cudsy are now in a pretty tricky position. Only 2 players full health and standing.
Yeah, Shrimzy, the best player inside of North America, and I think nobody will argue with me on that point as things stand. Just peeking up over the ridge line. 1 kill on the board for him, and Shrimzy,
no.
pull your parachute.
Best player in North America.
No! And doing what it takes.
No. You jinxed him. You said he was the best player in North America, and then he makes a play like that. That is so unfortunate for Falcons there. Almost as bad as Tig's nades last week, but I'm not going to open that can up just yet. They're going to be crashing into the compound. DraftKings able to take down one from Banzai, as now they're looking out for that other player. They hear the footsteps right at the time he unpeaks. Mime gets caught, not significantly though, so they have a good read on where that player is. Interesting to see that Banzai are actually taking this fight, as Mime jumps out the window, hits the spray onto Loki. Down goes one, down goes the second, and Bestia, well, they've started to turn this around, and it's certainly working out in their favor if they take Banzai out in 16th place.
But here come Liquid. Alo throwing the nade and doing a little bit of damage onto everybody as Silzen is the last player standing for Bestia, so a wall of mist will be thrown inside as fog descends on this compound inside Miramar. But Alo, all you gotta do is hit your shot. Sparking, he's gonna die to fall damage too, but the headshot is perfect, and Liquid will get everybody back on their feet. 3 kills on the board. Well played by them, but I'm sorry, I'm still in shambles over the timing of Shrimzy doing what he done. Like, I can't believe it.
It's the caster curse. I don't know what you expected out of it. DIY, though, nice little headshot there to take down yet another Alcudia. I mean, I don't really like this position personally. I mean, you get a lot of cover out of it, but actually being able to move out of these dips is very tricky. I'm a little bit surprised to see so many teams playing in for this position. It looks like what it takes. They've realized that Alcudia have made the move. They're going for the high ground. This is, in my opinion, between what it takes and Falcons, they probably have arguably the 2 strongest positions inside the zone. I will say there's a nice little plateau over to the east of Falcons that they could be able to play that is completely open, so I'm surprised that no teams have been able to scout that yet, and it wouldn't surprise me if a squad like LG tries to make the move up there.
Yeah, LG though, I think that for now they'll be happy to stay put though, Chunks. Like, if the circle does go that way, 100% they will make that move, but for now I think that they will just wait and see what the zone's going to go for. Elsewhere around the map, there's no real crazy splits to talk about. Maybe you could talk about Toyo with 3 players a little closer inside, just south of La Cabrera, but Capitan keeping an eye on the flank way off to the west. El Proyecto lost Posa a little while earlier, and when you look at the names of the... I'm going to do my best not to cast or curse anybody here, but when you look at the names, Gizera, Haven, Kraken... You know, you're looking at some of the best teams, the players that South America has produced lately. Internationally, those 3 players, you could argue, were the best performing South American players outside of Sparking. And I think it's another team to keep an eye on all forms of competition this year.
I couldn't agree more, but what have you done? You just cursed Shrimzy. Now you're cursing a whole second team?
The whole team this time, not even a player. The whole
You thought
team.
you would have learned by now. Now they're all going to hop into a vehicle and it's just randomly going to blow up or something. Toyo, though, they're being very methodical with their approach, very calculated, no randomness here. Capitan looking over the top, getting ready to take those long-range shots, but opting not to just yet as that sandstorm comes in. Will break the line of sight, might take a little bit of info away, but Adam is doing nothing but gathering info right now. As Team Liquid, they crashed into this compound. They've already cleared up, but now they're going to have to defend it themselves in a bit of a 2-2 split as actually Sparking and Luke 12 look to move away. They should be able to get over this ridgeline before taking too much damage as Adam, one more bullet would have done it then.
And Luke 12 in the exact same position, just almost getting caught out by Michael, who had the off angle. Zone shifts, and you could see that Voxage had made that move that you'd spoken about, Chunks. But with this zone coming back towards the south, they're going to collapse everybody back into this compound by the valley. Legacy full sending in as well. They're going to go right into the mix of that God Crossroads where you can see working in silence, or not working in silence, sorry, but Typhon in that position as well. But I'm looking at 55. Remember, they backed off a fight earlier on tonight, Chunks. Now they find themselves in a southern position with brilliant lines of sight over everything that's going to go on.
I'd like to see him try and get a couple more players up on this hillside once the zone moves in and they know that the southern side is clear. Obviously, they're not going to be aware of that right now. We have the beauty of the map stream, exclamation point map, for anyone who isn't aware. It really does add an extra layer to be able to see what's going on. I'm surprised by El Proyecto here, just backfilling into the squad directly ahead of them. That is a questionable play, in my opinion. You know, it's very easy to get caught out if a team knows that you're coming up behind them for them to just wait you out, but they have slowed it down. They're going to stay at the bottom of the hill, rethink things a little bit, just as LG are, which, again, I'm surprised that they didn't move up this hill earlier into a bit of a stronger position, but in a zone like this, hard cover goes a long way.
I think there's too many hills, though, Chunks, when you think about this position. Like, you've got that hill that you can see FN playing on. You've got the high ground that's being held by Team Liquid just above them. They want to wait until the zone fully dictates where to go before they pick the wrong hill. You know, you don't want to climb up the wrong hill, then have to come back down it. Working in silence, BL, as we spoke about him earlier, gets a great nade on the Tony from Typhon. Point on the board for them, having lost a player a little bit earlier on to some great shots, but it sounds like we've got a bit of a battle kicking off a little bit further up to the north. Team Liquid locking horns with I keep trying to say Wuju 2 because that's who they play under in PAS, but it's what it takes.
Yeah, what it takes now. They might be able to make something out of this. Again, these are very scrappy fights considering where we are, but I guess when you've got hillsides like this, there's going to be a lot of teams in those valleys, a lot of teams kind of spreading out amongst them. OMG, though, really nice nade coming out there as Cowboy takes down one, able to trade it out in return for Rello. Looks like Alcudia will be able to get this revive, but Falcons, you see them creeping in as well from that northern side. Kickstart taking shots over the top as H-Wing closes the gap. Could we be seeing an aggressive push from them right now?
I'd love to see it, but H1 is just biding his time. You know, Falcons playing the long game here, waiting to see what could happen, and they need to be more worried about this because Toyo about to rotate MG3 in the hands of Kick. Little lands one headshot, but that ain't going to be enough, and now his position has been revealed away. You got himself getting shot from two different angles at once, and it's Cowboy, baby, who gets the knock onto Kickstart. His nade onto Capitan is phenomenal, but he's not going to get res, Chunks. He's too far away, and H1 is the only real player who can do anything about it, but he's too busy in the middle of the fight with the members of Alcudia.
I mean, props for the nade there. That was really impressive, but when you pinch like that, it's not too surprising he wasn't able to make it out alive. H-Win, he'll be looking to now if he tries to take this fight. It'll be a difficult one for sure. Sparking from Team Liquid also going to be taking a fight on the other side up against what it takes. Looks like Cowboy's going to fall. H-Win quickly going to move in for the flush here, you got to imagine, but needs to be careful that he doesn't get traded out. Alcudia, though, they've moved away in the vehicle. Now they're heading straight back. He's got the Panzer main right here. He lands it with a little bit of damage. Not going to be enough to get the knock, and it's Rello in the end who finishes off the job. Only Tingleton left up here for Falcons. He's really in the middle of nowhere and a long way to make it into zone. I hope he's got a parachute.
Yeah, well, Shrimsy didn't have his earlier. Sparking peeks on over. There's Lucid. That's as easy as they come. The Bizzler putting in some work as El Proyecto fall at the hands of LG. Sparking happy enough with finding one knock. He'll provide some cover while the rest of his team pop focus on that res. Sparking picks up once more. It's sneak attack this time as it's a bit of guerrilla warfare here. Another target found, but BL coming in with a third party, working in silence, causing a problem for Sparking, and Kurt's going to try and get up there to provide some cover.
He's going to try and get that vehicle the right way around first. As Sparking nearly gets caught through the smoke. Beautifully done as he manages to hit the med. Quickly returns fire on Takeda, catches him through the smoke. Beautifully played there from Sparking. Somehow Team Liquid still 4 men strong. And what it takes, they're on the back foot now. Marcis is going to try and get over to revive Sneak Attack, but you got to think it's looking less and less likely as this zone creeps in. There won't be any pressure from the back, so it's all about time for them as Tigleton, he's going to look to time this one right, but that nade looks pretty well timed too. Catches him with a little bit of damage. Now it's going to be a bit of a red zone landed on Tig's head.
Yeah, Tigleton, though, we know he has big plays in his bag, bag of tricks. He's got the blue zone nade at the ready, tosses that one out, and that should begin to bloom. Now, as you can see, Toyo are trying to escape from this position as they will get on the move, and Tigleton, he's got the blue to contend with, but will not get the opportunity to take those initial shots in the fight, and the blue zone's going to be a problem for Tig here. Elsewhere, though, this fight between What It Takes continuing with Team Liquid. Chunks Sparking still holding the high ground, and if he gets this angle timed just right, he's going to be a hell of a problem.
Oh, he certainly will. Sparking spins around the back, takes down Marcis, followed by Sneak. That's What It Takes out in 11th position. Team Liquid now on 7 kills with only 1 player left standing, and Toyo are looking to change that by taking out Sparking. It doesn't look like it's going to happen right now, but this is going to be a tough revive if he tries to get any of these players up. Kurt is out in the blue now. He's throwing down the smokes for a little bit of cover.
Oh,
and look
no.
at this, Tigleton just trying to sneak his way in. I think he knows he probably can't take on Toyo 4 versus 1, but if he can find an angle onto Team Liquid, he will certainly be picking up a couple of kill points.
Yeah, but look, he's only got 1 bandage left inside his arsenal. He's got no nades, so for Tigleton, he's not going to be able to do anything. We're watching the poor going to fall. He goes down to the blue, and we will focus elsewhere. Team Falcons, they go out in 10th place. 55 Esports, we spoke about them earlier. Avoided conflict, now find themselves on the south with an angle potentially opening up in just a few seconds as Pipa falls at the hands of BL.
So this is weakening Toyo a little bit as Team Liquid now being able to regroup. Both of them have to run down a very open cliff face, and as far as I can tell, neither of them have too many smokes just yet. They've both burned through most of them on these fights, so it's really going to come down to pure gun players. Down goes one. Emmy, the final player left up. Not for long, though. It's Toyo out in 9th, and we are already in placement points.
Can we just talk for a second about that Falcons game, though, as a whole? Shrimsy
They got a warm up.
Shrimsy fell off a cliff and died. H1 panzered himself. Kick got shot from both sides at one time, and Tig died to the blue. Is that the worst performance we've ever seen from those 4 players?
Oh no, I've seen far worse.
You
just
think
kidding.
Falcons?
No,
you
honestly,
think Falcons have done worse?
No, honestly, that is a really unfortunate game for them. Arguably, you know, I mean, not really arguably, I think most people would say one of the best squads in not only Americas, but also the world. One of the most consistent teams as well. Really unfortunate to see them go down like that. But again, it's about consistency. I'm sure they're going to bounce back in the next game and show up.
I'm going to break the 4th wall. We're in 3rd person perspective, but I'm breaking the 4th wall. Chat, type 1s if you think that's the worst Falcons play / Sonics play we have ever seen on a map. That's what I want to know. Team Liquid, though, they're on the north of the circle. Still 3 up somehow after all the fights that they've been in so far. They'll now rotate their way in as every single team in the lobby, I feel, takes shots at the Murado as it becomes a spinning top coming down the hill. And Luke 12 will be the first one to fall. Sparking goes down to BL. Yeah, that's the way it was always going to go for Team Liquid. And I see 1s everywhere in chat. They agree with me.
Yeah, it's 1s and then Sandok saying how bad I am. Thanks for that, man. Anyway, Team Liquid, they go down in 8th place. I don't know why Luke decided to jump out the vehicle, but I guess when you lose a tyre, it's just about kind of scrambling. There may have been a bit of a miscommunication between the squad about what was going on there. Again, they were out of smokes. We mentioned this earlier before they started making the push. It's not too surprising, but we're going to see a whole different push now. Not on screen. It's Empire that clean up on the other side. Mixall, though, goes down, and it leaves only 2 players left up for 55 Esports as Alcurcia start to close in the distance, but DIY gets third party and I think leaves Relo solo now.
Yeah, 55, tossing utility down. Rello, as you said, all by himself inside the smoke, but does have a nade at the ready. If he lands this perfectly, he'll do a ton of damage. 35 found onto H11, but he's using his player for a body block, dancing around it, trying to bait Rello to step up and over this hill, but as Rello continues to throw nades this direction, H11's got to be so careful, and he loses the battle. Rello with a headshot, and he was just way too passive, Chunks.
I mean, really impressive play from Rello, though, just not letting up on that util. I think he realised that there was only so much time left. I think he also maybe assumes that there's still a player left up for them as he gets third party by working in silence. He would love to move up that hillside to get some cover, but he just doesn't have time. Phase 6 is about to start closing in, and just ahead of him is a wide open hillside. The vehicle is gone. It's going to rely on smokes, and honestly, they don't really give you cover from bullets.
No, they really, really don't. Anyways, BL, who doesn't really need a lot to work with to find a good game's peeking up now over that hill as Trisk, the last remaining member of 55, has found himself kicked out of the circle. Phase 6 will be closing soon. He's got to go over that open terrain in third-person perspective. I feel like Trisk's race has been run. Empire, though, 5 kills for them. They've got prime position on the high ground in the circle. LG, realizing that's a tough push, will begin to rotate off the back of it. Trisk is really the only person who can be a problem here for the members of Empire, but I just feel like he's locked out. Look, they know. Oh my God, BL.
Yeah, I think Trisk is done here. I think Empire arguably have the strongest position inside the zone. They've got a nice little dip to work out of. The zone has shifted towards them as well. If it goes to the east again, every team is going to be walking up that hillside, and it's pretty much just going to be a shooting fish in the barrel situation for them. It looks like that final player from 55 is going to go down to the blue zone, just medding up as much as he can, trying to at least eke into the top 4. It's not going to be the case, though, as Trisk goes down. 4 teams left, but only one of them with all 4 players, and again, arguably in the strongest position right now.
Yeah, that 4v3, v3, v3. So really, you could argue it's in anybody's hands, but Empire have the benefit of the terrain and the high ground. Yes, Finna's, you know, the vest has definitely seen better days. There's no denying that. But I'm curious as to what's going to happen inside of God Crossroads, because Typhon and Working in Silence are still in position. Working in Silence currently top of the leaderboard with more placement points than anybody else on Monday. Once again, finding themselves inside a Final 4. The big problem I think they face, Chunks, is when this zone shifts, and it probably will go more so towards Typhon's side. Do they have the smokes? Do they have the utility they need to make this crossing?
I mean, it looks like they've got something to make the crossing, but then you have to take into account they're all going to be pinned on that back wall. As the circle does shift down to the south, Empire are going to be forced to move. If I recall correctly, there are some nice little ridges that they should be able to play, so they can still keep some of that high ground. I think the big factor in this fight is how LG are going to play this. Do they decide to wrap around into the low ground, try and somehow use the little valley next to the road, which there isn't really much of? Or do they come over the top and wait for Typhon to take the fight onto Working in Silence in the hopes that Empire get distracted? It looks like for the time being they're just going to hug that wall as Working in Silence do close up that distance, but they've really got to commit all their players over here. They're already a man down. It can't be a 1 versus 3 fight.
Yeah, BL crosses the road, gets the shield down to provide cover from his northern side. And now Ruben is going to make the move as well. Now Ruben will come under fire from LG, so parks the Bronco on his left to keep some cover. Now that's a great blue zone nade as it forces BL just about outside of it, and Santa cannot go any further forward for a moment's time. Gats, though, finds the angle through the wall onto the head of Ruben, and all of a sudden things not looking great for the 2 men up for Working in Silence. This is all doing favors here for Typhon, who are locked into this fight, and I think Luminosity, they're playing this really well, but Empire looks like they might just be about to flank down this way.
I was about to say the same thing. Those shots now have given the position to Empire. I know that LG didn't think they were alone, but there's always that risk now that they could come over the top and potentially third party. Snakes is going to do what he can to anchor, but LG, they're already down to a 3-man. Snakes is going to be in a very tricky position. Working in Silence, I think they are just about inside the circle here, so it doesn't look like they're going to commit onto the compound right now, which is probably the best thing they can do with only 2 players left up. But there's only a matter of time, 45 seconds till this one closes in, and it finally looks like Empire and LG are going to fight, but it's actually Working in Silence that are third partying onto the hill fight right now, just trying to pick up any point they can before their inevitable downfall, it feels like, in that compound. LG, they go down to Empire. Nothing too unexpected there, but really nice play from Empire to be able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, and they'll have time to get the res off now as well, as Michael will be brought back up onto his feet.
The
Empire in a 4v2v3. Yeah, that MK in the hands of Finna will be a dastardly weapon indeed. Working in silence, though, they're in no rush to push any further up. They've got the wall as cover. You don't want to expose any part of yourself to the line side of Typhon, who, I'd argue, Chunks, Typhon should have a pretty utility game. We've not seen what they have in the pocket, but they should have plenty to work with as we move later into this.
I think they've probably committed a lot onto preventing this push from working in silence, though. These teams have been sharing this compound for a while. I'm surprised that working in silence had so much util to be able to make this push in the first place. And yeah, it looks like Typhon really don't have much to work with.
Yeah.
One flashbang in the pocket of this player, and they're going to have to make it count. As working in silence, they're getting a flash of their own. They're getting ready to make that move, but you can sense the hesitance right now. If I was in their position, I'd be waiting until that zone was on my back. But if you do that, you know that Typhon are going to be waiting. They know that your options are limited, and they're going to wait until you absolutely have to move before they open themselves up in the hopes they can catch you out in the open. In goes one, about to be followed by the second potentially, but it seems like he's just anchoring for the time being as they clear building by building very methodically. I'm not keen on these one-man pushes, though.
Yeah, he's scouting, though. He's scouting. He's not necessarily looking for a fight. He's trying to find where it's clear or working in silence to make their next move. They realize this compound could be a death sentence, so instead they're going to play the edge of the wall. But here come Empire, taking the game into their own hands. They're going to make the crash, and the first throngs of war are going to be here. BL, if he times this right, could cause mayhem here for Empire, who are focused on Typhon inside the compound. BL, Og at the ready. But as you can see, he's just gathering information. He knows the time is not right to push just yet.
He needs to use that BZ nade right now. That is the one nade in his arsenal that could completely change the game for him. If he throws down that blue zone nade, Empire are going to be forced to move. It will just do too much damage for them to be able to stay in this position feasibly. You do have to bear in mind, though, Valier is still anchoring up top, and we've seen what he's capable of as a solo last week. As the zone starts to creep its way in, I think things are going to slow down, and we go down to that final dot. Empire right now, they have the advantage. Valier is up there covering. The rest of them can hold this wall and kind of wait for the other two squads to move into them, as now it starts to make a move. Working in silence, certainly living up to their name, keeping things quiet. They throw down the smoke for cover. Out comes the frag. Surely now is the time to use that BZ nade. Throw it against that wall. Try and disperse Empire. Throw a spanner into the works.
Or just throw a great nade like that does splash damage across all three players, and then step up into the fight. Finna will fall at the hands of Kwanzaa, and there is that blue zone nade that you've been begging for, and that should be the end. Now Michael will sprint into the smoke, peeks around the side, catches out Santa without a gun in his hand, and well, BL will try to find the instant trade, but the problem is Michael can retreat back inside the smoke. Kerak will confirm out Finna. It's a 2v1v2 as we see the end of BL. Michael finding the kill. 10 kills for Empire now, and it's a 2v3, and Typhon should be able to get the angle here. You know where Michael is, but it's patience. Phase 9 Chunks. Psycho gets the kill on Adam. It's all down to former world champion Michael. He's gonna fall, and it'll be winner, winner, chicken dinner. Typhon taking the first game of the night.
That was a huge play from Michael there. Granted, he wasn't able to get the win, but look at that, 10 kills on the board for Empire Gaming. Typhon, though, they played the position really well. 5 kills on the board. They weren't putting out a huge amount of damage throughout the game, but fair enough. It saved them that util for the end. They were able to use it when working in silence, made the push, and they prevented that. I would be very, very shaky if I was getting into defending a position like that with working in silence closing in, and I didn't have that utility. Really impressive to see them get those points on the board, and that'll be a nice little boost to start out the evening.
Yeah, and we look at the highlights of game number 1. We had the hot drop inside of Power Grid, which we will say was won by Luminosity. They got 1 kill, and that forced 55 to fall back. Then we had a lot of long-range fights like this. Chunks, you had Sparking picking up a couple of nice headshots. Oh, I bet, please, are we going to see the Shrimsy fall again? As that's the real question.
I hope so, because that
we
was the
didn't. We missed
highlight.
it.
All right, I guess if you're a Falcons fan, that's the low light of the game, but that is the real highlight of that game right there. Again, those crashes from Team Liquid, I want to talk about that for a minute, because that was really good of them to be able to identify there was a fight going on and immediately push onto it. They fully sent it in. They realized there were players down, and that was just the start of momentum for them. They kept it going. They got themselves out of, what, 2, 3 very tricky situations to be able to make it to the late game.
Yeah, sparking was phenomenal over the course of that game. BL picking up tons of kills. Look at that headshot on the Relo from afar. Then we got to the end game. This push from Empire onto LG was so perfectly timed. They knew you had to deal with them if you wanted to progress inside the circle. But then the problem is you're crashing a compound that's held by a 3-strong team with Working in Silence on the other side. Michael did a great job picking up those extra few points. But Typhon, you know what, Chunks? You get the extra couple of points for coming first over coming in second. They didn't get as many kills as some other teams, but that'll certainly help them get up that leaderboard.
I did not realize that was a shotgun headshot to end the game. Really impressive. Unfortunately for Typhon, though, it's Empire who steal the show. 10 kills and 6 placement points puts them first overall in terms of the points in that game. But again, we keep talking about Working in Silence. They were first place going into tonight. They've kept that consistency up, and they should be able to just about keep that lead. But Liquid, they're closing in very quickly with the amount of kills they're getting on the board.
Yeah, Liquid playing really well. Only 1 placement point, but 9 kills for them. Looking at the other side of the leaderboard, though, El Proyecto, a side that you would expect to be much further up the leaderboard with the talent that they have, they went down really early in that one. And as we look at the overall leaderboard, Working in Silence, 67 points, a 12-point gap over Team Liquid in second. But you look at Empire, you look at Falcons, you look at Al-Qudsiyah, one game could rocket either one of those teams right in behind Working in Silence.
Yeah, it's certainly going to be a close one. Working in Silence, if they're going to focus on the placement points, they have to keep up that consistency. It tends to be with Working in Silence, they're not a team that's eager to take fights in the early game, but as they get towards, phase 4 and onwards, that's when they start picking up. And I think that's one of the good things that we see from them is they're able to reserve that utility, that ammo, and they're able to use it when a lot of teams who take those early fights end up burning through it so early on, and they're left literally out in the open in a game like that. You saw how many players, how many teams were just running or taking vehicles down open hillsides. It shows that, yeah, you can get aggressive, you can get those kill points, but you need to try and conserve some of that utility.
Yeah, utility usage. It doesn't matter what the game mode we're playing inside PUBG. Utility is king, particularly when you get to the end in those final few circles. But that is that for Miramar for the first PUBG Players Cup. There's 4 maps on the night, 3 more to go. Chunks and I are going to go into a very quick 2-minute break. When we come back, we'll be running it back. We'll see you guys in 2 minutes. Welcome back to the PUBG Players Cup. Gibson and Chunks here, bringing you all the action in NA. And yeah, you're right, it is EU casters doing EMEA and NA. But you know what? Let's have fun with it. Shout out to Mark and Kowo for the great job they're doing over on our side of the water for the viewers at home. But game number 1 done and dusted, or should I say game number 5 done and dusted. Game number 1 of the night. 3 more games to go. Chunks, do you see much more movement in the qualification spots for the next stage of the Players Cup?
I think things are so tight right now that we definitely could see. It's still plenty of games to go. You know, in an 8 tournament format, 3 games is, you know, a significant amount, especially considering the fact we're playing on 3 different maps this evening. They only get 1 opportunity at each map, 2 in the grand scheme of things. It's going to be a tough one for a lot of these teams. If you haven't started stacking up those points already, you really have to come out strong now. But as I said, there's no team that's really stolen the top spot. There's still plenty of room for those bottom teams to come out as long as we see some inconsistency in the top half of the leaderboard.
Yeah, and it's all about consistency when you want to win a tournament, but just about doing enough to try to get into the top 8. You know, that's the end of the day. That is the goal for a lot of these teams. Get inside the top 8, get yourself a chance of winning even more of a prize pool. As we look at that wonderful 8th anniversary plane livery, 8 years, Chunks, we've been playing this game. 8 years, we've had tons of fun with it. And here's hoping for many, many more to come.
It's making me feel old, you know?
We are old, though. We actually are.
When I started playing this game, and I still remember we were waiting for the servers to go up at the weekend. Everyone was sitting, waiting for that Discord announcement for things to go live. I said, you know, it's awesome to see there are names in chat that I've played with since the very beginning. And it really shows how much this game means to some people. And it's changed my life immeasurably. And you know what? I think while we've got a bit of time, we can appreciate the nostalgia. We can appreciate the longevity of this game as well, because I think one of the things with PUBG is there's always a new strategy. There's always a spot that you haven't seen. We've got new maps that have come in, new guns, new equipment. I mean, I was saying to you going into this evening, I want to see some mortar kills because, you know, I stopped casting way before mortars were even in competitive. So I'm excited to hopefully see some of that this evening, especially after those Panzer plays coming out from Falcons earlier.
I'm with you on that. I love the mortar, and you know, we have the best mortar player in the world, I'd argue, in Tig inside the lobby. So if anyone's going to use it and have some fun with it, he is going to do so. Loki using... Oh, no. Oh, Emmy doesn't have a gun. You're okay. But you know who does? Zinni. And Zinni is going to go... He'll get the knock onto Emmy. It's actually Loki that finds it as our first victim of Tego will fall, and it's Emmy. And you know what? We were talking about the nostalgia in the game. Remember, the roadmap for the game was released, what, a week and a half ago? So if you haven't, go to the PUBG channel on YouTube, check out Twitter. You can keep an eye on what the roadmap for the next year is as far as what's going to be added to the game, what they're hoping to bring in. And it's exciting times ahead to see that they do have plans all the way through to this year and next. And what a circle that is to kick things off.
It's pretty friendly, I have to say. I mean, when we look at what happened last week, when it went all the way over to the west, it was kind of split between the north and the south island. All of our teams committed up to the northern island, and then it moved down to the south. I would imagine this is going to be a little bit more of a structured game. I think one thing that we've noticed doing the Players Cup is there isn't a huge amount of structure sometimes. We definitely see some very messy positioning and some messy early game fights. But I think when we see something like this, a very normal circle, we might actually see kind of standard competitive PUBG, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and PUBG, it's always been competitive at its heart as well. Like,
oh, yeah.
If you think back to the very start, the game has evolved so much as even as how the games play out. Like, I remember...
running the leaderboards.
Right. Do you remember the very start of the game when nobody could full auto spray? Like, it was just, yeah, if you have an M4, if you have an AK, you go full auto from 5 foot. Everything above that, people were going single fire.
I gotta echo what Maluk said last week. Tero could. You know, that it was interesting to see because the skill difference between the top players and then the casual players like myself was absolutely huge. I still remember when this game first launched, my PC could barely run it. I was playing at like 15 FPS at the most scaled down resolution. I had terrible internet at home. I was literally on EU servers playing on 200 ping, and I made the terrible decision to play with a load of Americans. So it was a nightmare, and seeing how the game has progressed, seeing how much it's developed, it's beautiful to me. And I think that skill difference, it's closing up. I think your casual player, you know, we've all seen PUBG reports. We've all seen ourselves, you know, take out someone who we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I managed to get them then. So we'll have to see how that progresses, whether, you know, in a tournament like this that anyone can take part in as long as you're 16 plus. I mean, there's the opportunity to really prove that skill difference is closing and take down some of the best players in the world.
Chunks, I'd love to say I agree with you because I love you, but I think that's copium from us. I'm not going to lie. I think that's pure copium from us. These guys would fry us every day of the week and twice on a Sunday.
Once, I'll have you know. I got 6 kills in 6 games, so I'm basically a pro.
100%. Anyways, Team Liquid with Bestia rotating on by. Alo bunny hopping, having a whale of a time here. Liquid currently in second place, not too far off of that top spot as we get deeper and deeper in the game. 5 minutes gone, so we're about 4.5 minutes away from that first zone shift as Team Liquid just watch Bestia going in through the sky.
Sneaking through, though. I don't think Bestia actually have the read on this based on the current positioning. Kurt is definitely leading the charge. They're going to hear that vehicle pulling up. In comes the spray. DraftKing taken down. Relative ease, but now the problem becomes Bestia are going to switch their attention. You've got to think they're going to try and close in on this. I mean, they don't have an idea of how many players are around, but they've got to know it's at least 2. So actually, now that they've flushed out DraftKing, it looks like Bestia, they're going to try and move away from this for the time being. Maybe Mime in the parachute could grab a little bit of info.
Oh, this could be another opportunity, though, for Kurt to pick up another kill. 81 damage, sees Silzen driving away, and now it's time for Kurt to show us why the oldies do it best. Hits a shot, but Silzen will retreat back inside the compound. Liquid with a decision to make. Mime parachuting in just above. One more shot should do it, and it's Tiggleton from an absolute country mile away that finds that one. And now the question is, do Liquid push the compound? It's a 4v2, Chunks, and when you have the team they do, I think, why not? Why not give this fight a go?
I don't think they've got the vehicles for it. I think they were happy holding up on this hillside, but as soon as they see those players move away, it's no surprise that they're going to try and close in that distance now, take control. You know, I was saying earlier how this looks like it's going to be a relatively kind of standard game of comp PUBG. I've just looked over at the map feed, and oh my god, Gibson, there must be 12 teams within a kilometer of each other. This is crazy.
It's what I talk about a lot, though, in broadcast, Chunks. It's that inverse donut effect that you get. So you know the way in a donut, usually there's nothing in the middle, and all the goodness is on the... Oh, well, I'll pick up that point in a second, because Exodus has picked a fight with Valiant, and you don't want to pick a fight with Valiant whenever he's on one like this. There's the second one as 16:04 goes down. Fairhopper is coming this way, and I think, yeah, Fairhopper, get out of there. You don't need to take this fight. You spotted out Valiant, but things ain't looking good for you, Chief. But back to my point, Chunks, it's the inverse donut. So instead of all the good, you know, the goodness on the outside and the middle being vacant, inside of phase 1 you see this effect where in the middle is where all the goodness is, and then on the outside is nothing but space.
And what confuses me most, how everybody in the middle is kind of quiet, and then we've got this fight over on the very edge of the zone, and OMG have now lost 2 to Empire.
It's just the way it is. OMG, first time seeing them in the server. They've had not the best of times. I've seen some nice things. You know, J08's had a couple of plays. 16:04, who's fallen earlier, has done some nice things inside the server too. But I think for J08, this is a rough one because your teammate has just abandoned you to your own will. Another team, Last Resources, is going to get into a fight with Luminosity. Cruxy, though, finds that opening knock on to Voxich, but a great trade from Snakers will buy the time. And now when you get that trade back, Chunks, you gotta push, and that's exactly what Luminosity are doing.
Really nicely done there. Gats was trying to pre-aim the angle. It didn't work out, though, as he switches over to the nade. Nearly got taken out. I'm surprised we didn't see a sweet seat swap there, but maybe he didn't spot the player moving around. Gats does get caught with a headshot. The Fizzler's going to be there to trade. Not for long. Snakers is miles away. He needs to hit these shots urgently, otherwise he's going to lose the rest of his team. The med hasn't been popped yet. He needs to hope that there's going to be a huge slip up here. He tries to push out for the peak. It's not going to happen just yet, though. Kodak Kid goes down.
Oh, my.
Now, LG already they are falling apart right here. And for a team that we expected to do big things, they have had an inconsistent performance, and that is just being demonstrated this evening.
Have you seen what happened there, though? An angle was gotten onto Snakers by Coda Kid, and then the third party from El Proyecto got the knock. So that puts Snakers back into a 1 versus 1, and all of a sudden, this has become really, there's a chance this could really be brought back by Luminosity. Maybe there's a salvage on here as Bestia fall in 15th place, but Snakers, this is the one problem, the one difference. It is so hard to push in TPP through open ground like this, which is why you see Snakers be a little bit more passive than he normally might be in this situation. And I think Arthur should use this opportunity to confirm out some points, and that's exactly what he does. He finds Gats, he's trying to get Bizzler, but here's the thing. You step over that side, Snakers might be able to find the knock. Oh, good spray, damage dealt.
Really nice spray there to be able to find the damage onto Snakers. The Bizzler's still going to be able to survive a little bit longer. As we see the E pick up, everyone is going to be forced a little bit over to the east. And this is a pretty tricky shift here, going into that really big river valley. There's a lot of ridges that you're able to play, but to be able to actually get over to those, teams are going to have to rotate a long way around. It looks like LG, they're just going to move away from this as well. Or should I say Snakers is going to move away from this. Or did I speak too soon? He's going for the push onto Arthur, and he's able to pick it up, actually manages to get the res onto Bizzler with a slither of HP left.
You spoke too soon, Chunks. It's Snakers, and remember,
it's the cast a curse. It's the second time it's happened tonight?
That was an insane killing. I want to remind all the viewers at home, Snakers cannot attend LANs this year. He's openly said it. If LG qualify for international events, he will not be attending. I believe Oldless will be there. Snake, I don't even know. I've said it before. Is Snakers the best retired player in PUBG? Because he is technically retired right now.
And would that then make Oldless one of the best substitutes in PUBG? Because that kid is cracked as well.
He's the most dangerous one anyway, that's for sure. Because nobody knows what Oldless is going to do.
This is dangerous, though, for Sneaksat, though, as players have just dropped onto his build, and he's able to take down one, but Marcis actually goes down to full damage as well. Really nice from 4-0 here. They should be able to get the revive onto the downed player, as what it takes. They're a little bit far away from this building. They're not going to be able to provide the best support here. Lucid's doing what he can to try and throw that nade through the window. I'll be very impressed if it lands. Not quite, though. Bounces off, and this is going to be one that slows down for a little bit, unlike the Typhon Banzai fight here. Now, Banzai, they need one big game, and they make their way into the top 8. They're certainly looking for it so far based on what's happened in the first phase or two.
And they're known players. Like, these players are all known entities inside of South America. Quan, Tony, Psycho, and Kerak. I've casted them, hundreds of times at this point, and they're fighting with the lesser-known Banzai. Elsewhere, Team Liquid peeking over what's going on in this fight between FN and What It Takes. I think Sparky is just going to continue to scout. There's no need for him to get overly aggressive off the back of this one. If we see that fight kick off in earnest, though, and multiple knocks, don't be surprised to see Liquid full send it in and try clean up some points.
Sparkin trying to clean up a point as it is, but does get caught out by the El Proyecto player. What it takes, they are going to lose yet another, so they are looking in a very difficult position right now. Sparkin doing his best to return fire. I don't think Liquid have to overcommit here. They can take it nice and easy if they want to. They're in a decent enough position, as everything in this compound seems to have come to a bit of a halt.
Luke playing on the line, but you can see Rello from Al Qudsi not too far away from this spot either, as Liquid, they're spread out a little bit. You have two players holding a compound. Sparking and Luke have extended out on a bit of an intel gathering mission, keeping an eye over what's going on elsewhere inside of Tego, as we just wait for that phase 2 zone to pop. Nice attempt there at shots from the mini, but nothing lands. It's more so of a warning shot there. And, you do a warning shot, you open yourself up to counter fire from another team, as BL found 41 damage onto Luke.
I want to see this move over to the east because I'm horrible, but I mean, it's going to be a rough one regardless of where this shifts. It looks like El Proyecto pretty much have that hillside to themselves, and it does exactly what I want. There's, 5 teams in that circle? That means 8 to make it in. Kickstart there with some really nice shots. Might not be able to get the flush, though, and based off the current position, I would be surprised if Falcons push on this, but maybe I spoke too soon because it is Falcons. They're down to a 3-man. It looks like one of their players either went down early or wasn't able to make it in, but they're certainly going to try and put some impact in anyway, as H-Win swings round to the side. Here's the player pull up. He's looking at the angle, getting ready to cover. He's not crested over the ridge all the way. H-Win overexposed himself, takes a little bit of damage due to it. Loki returns the fire. H-Win should be able to get safety, providing no util lands around it.
Oh my god, Kickstart, you're nuts. That knock on Deser with a quick tap with a mini says good night, and Falcons with 3 up can bring the fight towards Banzai a little stronger now. Loki still out in the open, hasn't really extended too far, as Tiggleton will confirm that kill, and you can't give Falcons opportunities like that.
No, because they will pounce on them, and 3 kills so far this game. You know, considering they're a player down, it's very impressive to see. Phase 3 is moving in. They are going to have to make a move sooner or later, but they're not going to let these players get away unscathed. Catching a little bit of damage onto the vehicle. There's still Loki left behind to try and make a move. I hope he's got a vehicle himself, because either way, Falcons are going to be looking over towards him. Typhon Gaming are winners from last game. They're trying their best to third party into this. They've got a good entry into zone, so they can hang around a little bit still and try and third party, get maybe a kill on the rotate, but they're not worried about moving just yet.
Yeah, I think it's phase 3 as well, right? You got jammer packs. There's no real urgency to push inside the circle, and you can kind of wait for the herd to maybe thin out a little bit before you make your way in. Empire, good game last time around, 10 kills on the board, plus a 2nd place finish. They'll be hoping to add to that. 4 kills already for them, certainly getting some points on the board. And I don't know how much you saw of PAS, but Valia was a one-man point machine. The amount of points that this player got as a solo for Empire was just impressive.
Well, it's not just PAS. Look at his performance on the Tego map we had the other day. He snuck his way in. I think made it into the top 2 in the end. Just completely destroying teams from behind. He would sneak up, wait for the team to start their rotate, and then pounce and take down the anchor player, leaving 1 or 2 players just stranded out in the open, and they were just free pickings at that point. Looks like El Proyecto, though, they're going to try and pounce onto 55 Esports. They've been able to get H11 Junior back up as the util pre-nade's going to be coming out. Should prevent them from peeking around that corner for the time being. Gives them time to get the meds off, but now the util get in return. Kraken trying to find an angle, decides to underarm it onto the player that's close. Catches a little bit of damage. H11 takes down 1. The nade is returned, though. It's a fairly even fight right now as 55 Esports trying to regroup as the Molotov lands beautifully onto Haven. Surely that's got to finish him off.
Yeah, Truss gets that knock. Haven down to his knees as well, leaving Gizera and Posa as 2 players up now. The knock onto Baki will put a bit of a pause onto the push for now, but you gotta try strike while the irons are hot. Gizera will go for the res, as stepping out on the other side will be Posa, and Posa finds the knock on the Mixtall. Suddenly things have gone all wrong for H11 and the rest of 55 Esports. Now he will go for a res of his own, but what a favor has just been done. Here comes another crash. Typhon seeing what's happened, seeing the knock. They have full send Reddit with it, and the H11, he's going to drop down to 1 HP. He's got a bolt in his hand, but it'll be Quan finding the kill. But we're not done yet, Chunks. El Proyecto and Typhon.
Typhon needs to capitalize on this quick. They've got 2 players that are full HP. They need to make the most out of that. Kara's inside the blue zone will be taking a decent amount of damage. They need to get aggressive. They have the player advantage, and now they've almost given it away. So it's become a fairly clean 2-on-2 fight. Really nice spray coming out there from El Proyecto to find a lot of damage, but not able to convert it over to a knock just yet. The nade lands in. I think he thought he dodged it. Sai really nicely done right there. El Proyecto, they are now taken aback a bit. They've got the shotgun in hand, do what they can to take this close range engagement. Smoke grenades coming out underhand, trying to protect themselves as they make their way out of the shack, but they are just surrounded, outnumbered and outgunned. El Proyecto out in 12th position, and the zone, as we took a quick glance at it, has just got even more brutal. Everyone is going to be playing these open fields now.
Only 2 more games for El Proyecto to try and make a step. As, oh my god, old man Purdy Curdy reeling back in the years. Incredible. Oh my, H-Win, I saw what you did there. Gets the knock on the Cetera on the drive by Falcons up to 4. What about old man Kurt? Best nade thrower in the Americas, and he shows us how it is done. Falcons, they find a position inside the circle. Now Loki is the target.
He's got the high ground, but if anything, that's going to open him up. He's on the back of a bike as well, so there is no cover if those bullets come raining in. Does decide to play the bridge line instead, as Kurt, well, he's taken that confidence and moved it over to the links. One shot, one knock. Does get the fire returned onto him. Will be able to get into the smoke for some safety. Throws down a second. Going to focus on getting that shield up, heal up, get himself a little bit of hard cover. As for nothing now, we're going to have to run down this hillside relatively exposed. I think the shots they put down should be enough to keep some of the Liquid players' heads down, but look at the rest of them stacked up in this compound. I think it's Sparking that is just Alo focusing all that attention up the hillside now.
Yeah, the only compound inside the circle, locked down by Team Liquid, really, because Typhon should be removed. And look at that for a shift up to the north. Now, Kurt is dealt with. BL finds the knock onto him, and that should be a kill confirmed as Working in Silence. Stop Sparking for stepping any further up. Now we'll look at the Bizzler. Richie B taking down the line towards this fight that's currently ongoing between Empire and Luminosity Gaming. Snakers will fall at the hands of Adam as Empire, 4 kills on the board, looking to add even more.
That's got to be the end of LG right now. Bizzler's out on his own. I'd be surprised if he even tries to get this revive here. It's too risky with Empire all around. Look at that Empire player, though, just camping out in the blue. It's Valiate, no surprises there. He has no problem sneaking his way in behind other teams. Banzai, they've got Loki up. He's just going to be relying on that bush. I'm not too surprised, but that zone is going to start creeping in 10 seconds, so he will be forced to make a move. He's got a nade in hand, going to try and throw it over towards Bizzler, but he needs to be concerned about Typhon. He's made his position known, and now they are just fully focusing in, trying to find that position. The bush, though, is somehow providing enough cover. Not for long as he runs out into the open. Still, alive, turns around, takes down a player, and it's the third party in the end that finishes off the job. Loki goes down, and that just about got Banzai into the points position. It was Falcons who fell in 9th.
Oh, the Gale Force Wind. We're going to say there was a Gale Force Wind there on Kerak as he went to get that spray off. He falls at the hands of the edge of the zone, and that's just unfortunate. Working in Silence, though, inside the placement point again, rotating into the circle as Cowboy spins out inside the bay. But for Working in Silence, just pick a lane, pick somewhere to play. You don't need to get too aggro, as Luke 12 will catch out Repo as they rotate through the circle. Toyo, though, and Alcudsia locking horns in the battle of the bridge. Head revealed. Relo can't hit it, though, through the tiny gap, but will start to close the gap by maybe going below.
Will he go below? He's thrown down the flashbangs. You might think he actually tries to peek up over the top here. Not going to happen, though, as Adam catches the headshot. More smoke's going down. That's the end of Alcudsia, surely, as DIY tries to close in the distance. He has the info that there is going to be a player up on the right, but decides to focus on the BZ right now. Try and get that flush. Might just be able to get the revive onto a player as Liquid. They're trying to get aggressive. They've stayed in this compound long enough. It gives good sight lines up the hill, but not so much down the hill. They Working in Silence, taking this aggressive fight. Toyo fall down in 6th, and Liquid, they need to try and make their way down an open ridge, but they are in a much better position than those squads were over to their west.
9 kills for them as well, getting knocks and points off of Working in Silence, the team they're trying to hound down on the top of the leaderboard. Nobody holding center zone as things stand. Working in Silence, they spot out Alcudsia over across the river, and that'll be another point for WIS. And now it's just Relo on the other side of the road, sprayed through the smoke. Souls almost finding that knock. The zone shift, though, is a fun one here, Chunks. It goes over towards where Michael and the rest of Empire is, and suddenly Typhon and Team Liquid, they need to rotate in.
They certainly do, and as we mentioned so many times throughout the game, this is such an open area to play. Empire, they're sending Valiate in as a bit of a solo here. Alcudsia, Relo, he falls down in 5th position. We make it into the top 4 as Michael, with some beautiful mini shots, nearly able to convert the knock over. Not quite. Trying to find the head of that Typhon player to weaken them just a little bit more. Typhon, they are going to be forced to make a move. He can't quite get to the vehicle tires, though, to deny it, so they should be able to at least find a bit of an opening, but it is risky when you hop in a vehicle. You are just wide open to getting shot. Sure, it's a little bit harder. You have a little bit more cover, but then if that position you want is taken, you have to turn around and hope you don't get blown up.
And this is a fun one for these teams as well. When you consider the fact that Liquid in 2nd place, Working in Silence in 1st, 2 teams looking to take top spot still alive as we get later and later into the game. And it's Alo sending it towards that rock, getting some cover. He'll spot it, but Tony with the Panzer from this kind of a range.
It's a bold play. You got to give him that one. Tony reloads it, get another one at the ready. Firing them out, making himself a bit of a red zone, but it's not going to work out, not going to connect with anything. Empire really starting to gain dominance right here, taking control of the zone. I say that, however, Valiate does go down. They're going to need to try and get the revive onto that, and it is not looking likely based on his current position. That does not phase Michael, though, as he lands a beautiful headshot to take down one of the final 2 remaining Typhon players. Empire certainly in the advantageous position, advantageous when it comes to player numbers, but still not secure. They need to hold this position and make sure nobody is able to close that distance.
Yeah, Empire with a real chance of a big win in the back of this one, but you feel like the biggest problem for them at this moment in time is working in silence on this side of the water, on this side of the ridgeline, because Team Liquid will be locked in with the fight with Typhon, and they're going to get the res. This is really big for Empire here. Now, so if BL can get close enough, he can get that nade within the distance to find the knock, and I think that's exactly what he's trying to do here, Chunks.
Certainly seems like it. Really nice to be able to get that revive, but it's going to work out for nothing in the end as Valiate falls again. The BZ nade's going to come down, and that might just force Finna out of position. Not so easily, though, as Adam covering that angle, able to connect with a couple of shots of his own. Working in silence, we see this game after game from them. They wait until the later game, they get themselves into a confident position, and then they just start putting up the numbers. 6 kills on the board for them right there. Really nice to see as Finna able to stick the res, gets Valiate back up, and I don't think working in silence is going to feel so confident about pushing this after catching those headshots from Adam. Saying that, Empire need to make a move now.
Yeah, Empire on the outside looking in. Souls is holding a great position, but the question is, if it shifts again, can BL get across the road? Tony, the still solo player up for Typhons, not too far away from Alo, who's all of a sudden on the outside of the circle looking in. But as you can see with the blue circle, that it's got to be a move pretty quickly here for Tony. He's prone. He's trying to make his way over the road. How much of a problem can he be for these two Team Liquid players?
10 kills on the board for Typhon here. Even if they go out now, this is a huge game for them. Team Liquid, though, they start to make the move. This could be Tony's opportunity to get down to that UAS, get down to that rock and get a little bit of cover. Empire, though, they are not letting anybody peek. Michael is putting in work so far this game with that mini, but he's only got a couple of bullets left in reserve. I almost hope he has a 7.62 weapon there to be able to trade out to. Valiate, again, getting aggressive, keeping working in silence, heads down, as now they are pinched in between Empire and Team Liquid.
Yeah, this is such a smart play from Team Liquid. Taking the bay away, getting involved in this gunfight, realizing that if working in silence or in the middle of a sandwich, you can pick up some points. Alo goes for the seat swap, hits his shots on the Solzen, but there's Valiate to trade it back. It's a 4v1v1v1 as Alo will get knocked here at the hands of Valiate as well. And BL, the one player up for working in silence, but Empire are on the prowl. That's a great kill from Adam. Down falls BL, and Empire really racking up the points now. 2 more players to kill, and they find themselves with a huge chicken dinner in game at number 2 of the night.
Liquid, really nice positioning there, but unfortunately when you make that rotate in a vehicle into an area that you haven't fully scouted out, there's always that risk that you're going to be caught in a tricky angle. That's exactly what happened to Alo there. The nade comes out, that's going to force Liquid into an even trickier position as Finna decides to back away. He wants to try and get a bit of high ground while keeping that cover, but doesn't want to overexpose himself. Valiate's still applying that pressure, but it is going to be Finna that falls. Luke 12, so far the top fragger in the leaderboard, looking to keep that trajectory up as he flushes out Finna. That's 11 kills now for Team Liquid.
And can they maybe turn this game on its head? And all it takes is one fight to go the other way and things become problematic. Now this could be dangerous as Tony makes his way into the circle. He's going to check these crates. He might find himself some level 3 gear. Maybe that, you know, a crate weapon as well could make a really big difference to their opportunity to winning this game. This is not done and dusted just yet. That third party from Tony, or those are spotted out. Valiant needs to move now in a sec as well. Luke's got to be so careful.
Really does. As Empire, they're just closing in now. They have a good read on where the player is. I think the intent of the nades here isn't necessarily to get the kill. It's more so to do some damage, force Luke to expose himself, but the smoke will provide a little bit of extra cover. Michael being very careful. They're aware that Typhon were up there to the north. I think they know there is still a solo player. They've eliminated most of Team Liquid, so they're still being very cautious about this, not wanting to overpeak. Unfortunately, though, Tony, he's just staying prone. So if there was a time for Empire to make this push, now would be it. 3 players committed onto the position as Adam tries to cover from behind. He throws out the BZ nade, hoping that this will force Luke out of position, and it might just about do that. More util usage coming out from the final Liquid player, but that smoke, it is just blinding Empire, and you've got to think Luke isn't able to grab all too much info out of it either.
Yeah, Michael's going to try a fun play as he tosses that pan up over the ridgeline, but I think for old Tony on the other side, he's going to play for second. Maybe if we see a knock or two from Luke, he might step on up and try to win this game for himself, but Empire, they're just hoping for the zone to do the damage here on the side. I'm actually surprised at the lack of aggression here from Empire. I thought they might have chased this one down a little harder than they've done so far, but you never know. Maybe they're still wondering where that last solo player is as well.
I think the problem that they have is they know where that last solo player is, or at least they think they do, and they don't want to expose themselves. Luke, though, he gets caught with the headshot by Michael, and now look at this Empire. They just immediately switch positions. They have a good read on where Tony is. He's picked up the shield to try and get himself a little bit more hard cover. That zone is going to be creeping in very gradually, but that pressure is only going to build for Tony here as he just prones along. He is using that third person to his advantage, trying to grab a little bit of information without exposing himself, but Michael, as he fires out the shots, does catch the number. Tony moves away, tries to deny the points, but it's Michael that cleans it up. Empire Gaming get themselves a chicken dinner with 12 kills to boot. A huge game coming out from them.
Yeah, 22 points is a beautiful tally for them inside of that game. And you know, while all that was going on, I got a message from Kurtz, and all he said in all caps was, "Old man reeling back the years." Kurt, you know I love you. I'm having fun. Kurt's one of my favorite players in the Americas, and I honestly love him the bits. But that's that for Tego. You know, we look at the highlights. Things kicked off nice and early. A kill in the first few seconds. Liquid started off their tally nice and early as well, catching out Bestia. But it really is just some great back-to-back games from Empire.
Really impressive. I am hoping that we managed to catch that clip from Purdy Curdy on that highlight reel, because that was huge from what I saw in the kill feed. A massive nade and then following it up with the flush as well. But it looks like we're just going to focus in on this Falcons fight, because that was so impressive to see them be able to clean this up and then get away safely. And honestly, Gibson, it was just an absolute mess when it came for fighting for compounds. There were so few as we got even into phase 4 that everyone was just crashing onto each other, and it led to a really exciting mid game, which, I mean, typically that leads to a slower late game, but that definitely wasn't the case going into such a barren circle.
Yeah, you see the open ground. Like, it was so open, and you saw players just hanging on for dear life. Loki gets this kill, and then a few seconds later manages to stay alive and not die to Kerak. But Alo, huge play. The drive-by got the kill. They dealt with working in silence. Luke 12 tried his very best in this late game. Did get an extra point out of the back of it, but it was Empire's game to lose. They got a big chicken dinner, and that's back-to-back really good games. And that'll put them in a really good spot for getting into that top 8.
When we look at the points from that game, of course, it's Empire who take the lead, but Typhon, even though they didn't get that first place, getting a serious number of kills on the board and actually putting themselves tied with Team Liquid, who are a team that they have just been focusing kills, and then that sometimes leads to good placements like we saw in that last game. But a team, again, I want to focus on is working in silence. Consistency is key, and they have it. Banzai, 5 points. There was a significant drop-off after working in silence. But like I said, in an 8-game format, all it takes is 1 or 2 good games. A squad like Banzai could still make it into the top 8.
Yeah, and it's good to see them on the left side of the leaderboard as well, because they've not really had the best of a week so far as we switch over to the current standings. Top 8. As you can see, 31 points is the cutoff, with some really big names down the right side of that screen. Bestia, Toyo, Luminosity, all teams that'll be competing this weekend in the PAS finals. not inside the top 8 just yet. But look at Empire now. I said a really good game could rocket them right in behind Working in Silence. They're now just 5 points off top spot.
That is absolutely huge from them, and it is no small part thanks to Valiate. When we saw his performance in day 1, and now being able to play as that solo player, watching the off angles in day number 2, I got to give him all the props. But again, Michael was absolutely farming damage in that game. He got an insane amount of kills and knocks throughout it, just really putting down the pressure onto those teams, especially as they got towards that end game, keeping heads down. And that's something that Empire really did well there. They applied the pressure, they waited, they didn't overcommit onto Luke because they knew there was still a solo they didn't have a full read on, and that could have easily ruined their day if they tried to push in.
Yeah, great job by Luke getting that extra point as well at the end. But that brings us to the halfway point of the night, Chunks. We've just got Rondo and Erangel left to go. So we're going to jump into a very quick break so we can get hydrated, get the water in. If you're watching at home, make sure to get water in during the break as well. When we come back, it's Rondo. It's going to be wild. We'll see you guys in about 2.5 minutes.
Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. This year, we're introducing structured competitive play in third-person perspective mode for players of all ranks, levels, and ability. Here's how it works in EMEA and Americas. PUBG Players Tour competition is held in 2-week phases. Each week, you and your squad can compete in player scrims. Think of these as a great alternative to ranked play. Each day of scrims will feature a variety of maps, with defined team and lobby sizes to ensure a balanced best-of-3 rounds. Teams will earn points based on their performance, and daily leaderboards will track their progress. When the scrims are over, the top teams will qualify for the PUBG Players Tour Cups, where they will be joined by up to 10 invited teams, featuring some of the best players in the region. Players Cup leaderboards will track team performances across 2 days of play, with the top 8 squads progressing to the final round of competition. Players Masters are the pinnacle of the PUBG Players Tournament. 8 teams from each of the 2 cups will engage in fierce competition for a huge prize pool in each region across the PUBG Players Tour season. And for times when a Players Masters isn't scheduled, you can still get your PUBG Players Tour fix with Super Cups. These work just like Masters events, where again, 16 teams, 8 from each of the 2 previous Players Cups, compete for a share of the total cash prize pool. Welcome to the PUBG Players Tour. You know the game. Be a player.
Welcome back to the PUBG Players Cup. Gibson joined by Chunks to take you through all the action. And Chunks, it's been a fun night. I think the tempo of the night has increased a lot compared to Monday.
Absolutely, and we love to see it. I love my action-packed games. I know that there's people out there that complain like, oh, they weren't playing properly. That's boring. No, I want to see these messy fights early on. I want to see teams getting aggressive, and that's what we've seen, especially when we see, 3-4 teams crashing into a compound. That is the PUBG Esports I love. It's the reason I cast so much OCE, honestly, but it is just all around a great night so far, and I can't wait to see what our final 2 maps have in store.
Yeah, just 2 more maps to go to secure the first 8 teams that'll qualify through to our first next phase of the cup. Remember, 16-team lobby will be locked in over the course of the next, couple of weeks. But, Chunks, the big thing is, if you want to take part in this cup, there is going to be another set of scrims to qualify. All you got to do, type !register in chat. That'll bring you to the WasDefy website where you can sign up you and your squad to get a chance to take on some of the best teams in the world, yeah, because they are. The best teams in America are up there with some of the best teams in the world. to get yourself a chance to win a prize pool. Because Chunks, let's be real, it might not be as difficult to lobby next time around when our top 8 teams have already gone through.
Exactly, you could start moving up those rankings very quickly, and then who knows, when you make it over to that Super Cup, there's a chance to play against the best team in Americas. Don't forget that at the end of the tournament, we could see that Masters Cup, EMEA versus Americas. You could be playing against the best in the world. That is hard to argue at that point. You know, obviously we're missing out some of the regions, but the best of the best will be there for sure.
I want to see some of these people who are talking about, you know, the supremacy of certain game modes, get them in their squad in. I want to see how these people can do inside of the game. You know what I mean? Let's see what they can do taking on some of these teams. But as things stand, we got a hot drop already just south of Gyeonggu, as Banzai, who got themselves a top 5 finish in the last map, are taking on OMG and OMG Exodus. You've just been deleted.
An unfortunate way to start the game, but for Banzai, they're going to be happy with it, getting 2 points on the board very early on. I've said that they're a team that they've started picking up momentum tonight, and they don't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Really nice from Banzai to pick up those points early on. I would hope that they start to split out a little bit here, try and get a bit more area covered for loot. And I'm not sure whether we even talked about that playing path there, but so much of the northern part of the map has just been completely cut off. And just look at how few teams are actually dropping in the zone. This is going to be a real mess down on the southwest. And you know what? I hate to say it, it looks like Test Track is probably, you know, a high probability at this point.
I don't think I've ever seen a test track circle in Rondo, but sorry, I can't even say it without a straight face. Test track in the Ox Factory in and around the center of the zone, as we tend to see in Rondo. The arrogance being had, when you realize that so many circles are gravitated towards here, it does actually allow for some technical and strategic play. If you go, well, if we know the circles are going to be in and around there, let's take drop spots that allow us to take advantage of it. The thing that surprised me is that Typhon have essentially, it's not a hot drop, it's more of like a lukewarm drop, but they've dropped right on top of where we're seeing Falcons playing, and that's a big move from them.
It certainly is, and it's putting Falcons under, I don't want to say a lot of pressure, because it's Falcons. They are used to dealing with hot drops. I mean, for the longest time, they have dealt with people hot dropping them. Every kind of global tournament I can think of, they've fought off hot drops. I was about to say the same thing. So yeah, they are well used to dealing with these hot drops. They cope with them well. Is 50-50 when you're in those global events, but I think in a lobby like this, not to discredit any of the players, but they're definitely feeling confident, and they are going to be willing to fight anyone who challenges them.
Well, look at some of the bounce backs they've had. Like, you had that, you know, not so great tournament where they did compete for the hot drop with 17. Then they had the following event where, yeah, well, exactly. But then they had the event where they weren't in the same group, and they went on and had a fantastic EWC. You're back-to-back EWC champions. Loki looking to put some of these OMG players back into the lobby as his first spray is successful. Fairhopper will go down to fall damage. Now you'll see players switch to first person perspective when you fight indoors, because it gives you the advantage, but 1604 is able to find Loki and banish him back. The only player standing for OMG. Fairhopper still alive, but he's got to win this tough fight if he wants to get his teammate back. Oh my, right, this is one of the bravest reses I think I've ever seen inside of PUBG. No smoke, virtually no cover. As soon as he gets his teammate back up, Zinnia's like, go back to sleep. Zur gets the final kill. Banzai wipeout. Oh my god.
Is it brave or is it bold? I think both apt descriptions for that one.
Or
again,
silly.
Though, really good early game from Banzai. This is what we wanted to see out of them. They're putting up kills on the board early on. Now the whole thing for them is to keep that momentum going, and that is where they've struggled. They've been able to get these fights in the early game. We've seen it so far this evening, but it's about consistently being able to carry those over. And look, it's all well and good taking these fights, but if you're losing a player every time you take one of those fights, the next one just becomes harder and harder. The chance to make it into the late game become very low. What I will give to them right now, though, is they are in a very good position considering the zone. I would expect most of the squads to end up fighting over on the western side, but as we saw in our previous game, just because the circle goes one way doesn't mean the players will not just go straight to the center. Let's hop on board with Bestia, because it looks like they're going to be trying to defend their compound if they're not careful.
I think FN have moseyed on into the center, further to the circle. They didn't want any of the smoke. Bestia are going to extend out, making sure that nobody is trying to, sneak up on them. And I think this is the right thing for them to do. But, this circle's not too dissimilar to the one we had yesterday, right? When you consider that we finished just over the coast from the water, closer to Yongu, where that Air League fight happened today. But a team that's not as high up on the leaderboard as I was expecting to be, because I think they're real contenders to be one of the top teams. Well, they are one of the top teams in Americas, but a real contender to win PAS is Al Qudsiya. Roth has said this is the best roster that he has ever played on, and I'm not going to lie, it's hard to argue. This is a really talented team.
Oh, absolutely. In terms of raw ability and the kind of balance that they have within the squad, it's really impressive to see. Roth is one of those players. He has been around the block for a while. He has played on so many different rosters at kind of all sorts of major stages of PUBG. I remember watching him, I think it was on Zenith all the way back in NPL. He has been around for a while. He knows who he meshes well with, and he's able to determine, if this is the team that he says is the best roster he's played on. I would not say that is just him trying to big up his team. I would say that is a genuine, these guys are players to watch out for. And when you look at, the performances that these players have been able to put up in the past, it's no real surprise to me.
Yeah, and I'm a big Roth fan. Look, I think anybody who knows me, Chunks, and you're included, knows that I like everybody. Like every single team, there's something about them that I love. I also love how Al Qudsiya have just decided they're going to full send red here. Kraken has been deleted, and that's a point on the board for them. Haven was on his way here. Now the question is, does he continue to wrap around the fine ridge? Because Gizera and Posa are in position to lay down a trap. And I think that this could be big from Posa. He's got 3 nades, no blue zones, but I think Al Qudsiya are oblivious. Yeah, Al Qudsiya are oblivious to his there, but I'll tell you what, a little further away they went. Gizera will signal the start of the war. He gets the knock on Dorello, and Posa, well, his position is compromised, so start throwing those nades.
This is really tricky from El Proyecto now, because you still want to have those players providing cover from long range, making sure that Posa doesn't get pushed, but it looks like that's almost inevitable right now. He's using every bit of util he has, which, I mean, there's not really much else you can do, and it lands really nicely to take down Roth. DIY going to close through that smoke, still getting lit up from afar, though, as flashbangs come through. Posa tries to hit the spray. He's not able to connect. They know that he is getting aggressive onto this now. He needs support from Haven, but that might just be too little too late if these nades land through. Nicely done either way. Cowboy takes damage, so does Posa, and now El Proyecto, they are in a very tough position trying to defend this, as they have just been lit up completely. Al Qudsiya, though, they don't make the push. Things have slowed down. They're getting the chance to regroup, and they might just be able to get Roth in, or maybe I just cursed him again.
D has been bunny hopping in the smoke, by the way, to try see what was going on, because the angle you get. Gizera takes the high ground and just wipes out Al Qudsiya. Yes, Al Qudsiya got the first laugh, but the last laugh was had by El Proyecto. They win the battle, and here comes Banzai looking for the third party. Gizera spots him. Yeah, this is free. This is absolutely free. Gizera makes no mistakes at finding that knock and instant flush, and Banzai bit off a bit more than they could chew there. And let's not even... There's another third party that could happen on the back of this, because the rest of Last Resources are having a look at what's going on here too, as Kickpome will find the knock on to Gizera.
Last bullet to make it happen as well. Last resource, they're going to move back a little bit, heal up. They get the second kill. That's Banzai eliminated. So many teams now converging on this one hillside, and it's kind of gone how we expected it to. Teams have all moved in from the west. They've tried to grab center circle. Obviously, they've not quite crossed over the river yet, so they're all grouping up in this area. Team Liquid, they're going to be making a push in as well, this time on the eastern side, as they spot out Finna. They've got a player hanging out the side, and it's not too surprising. They're trying to get aggressive onto it. Looks like they had a bit of trouble getting up that hillside, but they'll still keep applying that pressure, trying to force Empire away from this position as they get ready for the next phase to pop.
My McLaren's really bad off-road as well, Chunks, to be honest, so I can understand the struggles that he's having getting up that hill. Up in the sky, we have the glider. I don't know if you were watching EMEA earlier, but we had some beautiful dogfighting going on at one point as there's some scouting going on from Team Empire. And as we look at that circle shift, it's a little further north than what we had yesterday on Rondo. It's going closer to test track than what we saw. And with that being the case, yeah, exactly. With that being the case, though, Toyo, they've decided to lock down the center of the circle.
LG, though, they're just about locking down the edge of the circle. 55 up ahead. Mixel, careful not to overexpose. He's heard the vehicles pull up. It's not, a bad decision to try and move this bus back. He's going to avoid giving away his position too much. It's a very quiet vehicle. I'd be surprised if LG had been able to hear this, and it certainly doesn't seem so, looking at their minimap positions, the directions that they're facing. Bisla did try to move into the compound that held the rest of the squad, but not going to make anything out of it as he backs off. Trisk with some really nice mini shots. Can't convert any of them, though, but at least it's done a bit of damage to those helmets. Yeah,
it's an investment into the later game. I always like to say when you're dealing damage, you're not really expecting, you're hoping to get a knock, but you're not expecting it. But by destroying helmets, destroying vests, you're giving yourself a much better chance of getting those points later on inside the game. While we speak about that, Luminosity making the crash up inside of Neox Factory. It'll be Typhon meeting him at the end. This is very similar to what we saw at the weekend, and it was two different teams at that point, though. Gunners was one of the sides making that push, and I think it was LG they were up against, but this is a good decision for them. Get yourself a Neox Factory and see where the zone progresses from there.
I know I keep talking about, wow, I've not casted PUBG Esports in a while. Every time I see these gliders, it makes me so happy. I just want to see someone in that glider with a Panzer take out a squad that's in a dip. And honestly, Empire, they are playing their game right now. They've had such a strong performance tonight. I think they're just starting to have a little bit of fun with it. They're pretty much locked in to the top 8. They don't have anything really to worry about. They can play with as much freedom as they want. And hey, if all goes wrong, Valiant will just rat his way into the top 5 anyway.
Yeah, I feel like there's not enough danger being in a glider. Like, the odds of someone shooting you out of it are pretty low, but the main problem is it doesn't blow up. It just crash lands. Anyway, Team Liquid, Halo. Oh, this should be easy. Picks up with a P90. There's one. P90 sprays again. There's a second one as FN will lose 2 in the blink of an eye to Team Liquid. Now Zello is coming in from the other side of this fight as Halo will drop the smoke and try to get the res, but with level 3 gear and a P90, you can never rule out Halo winning in a situation like this. Good nade does a little bit of damage onto Kurt here, Chunks, and that forces a reposition, and Halo knows he can't really go for the res just yet.
Not just yet, and time is ticking now that Kurt has been hit with that big nade. Halo doing what he can to try and provide that cover, but I mean, right now Sparkin is pretty far away. Luke is on the other side of the river. He's just going to have to stick that res and hope that his teammates have a good enough angle to try and provide cover. As working in silence, they're going to have to try and cover themselves here, trying their best to defend this compound. They will be able to take down Trisk as the rest of 55 close in. Mixel finally catching up, but working in silence are very split, and now they are a long way from safety.
Yeah, you can hear Santa up on top of the roof. There's no chimney for him to come down this time around, and it's causing a bit of a problem. Baki finds the knock and flush onto BL as Santa does eventually drop down, and here comes Ruben as the rest of Working in Silence are here to help out. Baki, last player standing for 55. It's going to get choked out. That nade ain't good enough from Ruben, but you'd feel like the three of them should be able to combine pretty quickly to get this kill onto the board. Baki back against the wall, Chunks. I don't feel like he's going to win this one.
No, the Molotov lands now. He's going to try and get some elevation to avoid it. He's already been caught with splash damage off the frag. That's going to be the end of him. And unfortunately, that should be 55 Esports out. I say that. For a minute, I thought that the nade was not going to go off. But yeah, 55, they go down in 13th position. Unfortunate for them. But working in silence, getting those early game kills, which is something we haven't seen too much of lately. Falcons, they're going to take an early game engagement, yet to get a kill on the board, but in prime position to do so.
Zone shifts north while all that was going on as Bestia looked to secure center of the compound. A little bit of low Huaxing still inside the circle, but reality is it should shift away from there as we get deeper inside of the game. Looking elsewhere, Team Liquid, they need to go from one fight to another as they'll turn their attention to Toyo as they move in. Currently holding a 2-2 split, which is rather brave, Chunks. Would you hold a 2-2 split in Phase 3 when you've heard all that action from the south, or do you think that they're doing the right thing?
I think it all depends on how quickly you can regroup. Because holding a 2-2 split, it is very powerful. You get a lot of zone coverage. If you can make a lot of noise, then it keeps teams away. But then you have to start thinking about, okay, have we got enough ammo to actually make it into the late game? If you're taking those long-range engagements and you're burning through a lot of it, you're not going to be able to loot those bodies to pick up more. But ultimately, it comes down to how quickly you're able to regroup as a team in the event that the two-man gets crashed. And partly, how confident you actually are defending it as a two-man. Ruben spots out one of the LG players, decides to reposition the vehicle to keep those tires safe as Toyo, here comes the crash that they were concerned about potentially. No, it's actually going to be El Proyecto that are getting the pressure.
Yeah, look at that. Great shots from Posa, but Team Liquid doing a ton of damage. Posa down to 1 HP in a dream. He needs to sprint away from the explosion, and he's going to hit the deck and go prone. Look, he's going to run over his own teammate because why the hell not? He's going to get knocked on the other side of things, leaving it all down to King Sparking from Brazil. He might get looked back on his feet. The question is, how greedy do Bestia want to be? Well, Bestia the manners are being put into Bestia here by Empire, who are preventing them from pushing onto where Team Liquid have just crashed.
I think they want to push this, but I don't think it's really feasible right now. Liquid should be able to get the revives off and at least making it an equal fight. And I think at that point, Bestia, they hold back as best they can. It's going to be difficult. They have the low ground in that compound, so it's not beyond all reason that Liquid push. But now, actually, with the rest of the players getting flushed out by Falcons, that's going to be the end of it. Only Sparking left up. Now in a very tricky position when you notice the fact that there's a squad up to their northwest as well that could cause major damage. Liquid go down, Bestia pick up the kill, and Bestia, they're going to be happy with the result of this one considering the third party.
Yeah, Bestia. The thing is though, like, they're being kept in spot by Empire, and I think that's what's causing a problem for them. Now with this zone shift, it's put a couple teams in a really good position, Bestia being one of them, working in silence. Sorry, I said what a text I should be saying are in a pretty good spot here as well, but I'm curious to what happens here, because as I said, working in silence, I've got Souls inside the shack, they're holding back Typhon, Luminosity are over here, and let's not forget about FN as well, Chunks.
No, I mean, there's so many undetermined factors in a circle like this. I have to draw my attention, though, to anyone watching the map feed over to Empire Gaming, because they are a team that has consistently played out on the edge, worked their way in, and cleared it out. They are heading straight towards... what it takes is what I was trying to say there. Toyo, they're consistently picking up some points. Nice to see from them as they start stacking up more and more, trying to make their way into that top 8. LG, though, this is questionable at best. When you're taking that much fire from up the hill, relying on only vehicles for cover, it's not going to get you so far. And how do they plan on rotating out of this one?
Yeah, well, the plan might be made even more difficult because Gats is pushed on out. 2 of them have left. Voxic will fall. But Santa, he's got his eyes on this position, throws out the smoke, maybe looking to buy himself the opportunity to get close enough to toss one of those 3 nades up over that rock down to where Snakers is down. Now, problem is, the zone is closing here, Chunks, and Typhon, once they get the res off, they need to move this way. Snakers dealt with by Capitan from Toyo, but Toyo's split that they were holding earlier, it's starting to pay dividends.
It certainly is, and respect to them for being able to hold it for such a long time. I think now comes the time, though, where you have to start regrouping. I was going to say Capitan needs support, but evidently not when he's able to land a nade like that. Decides to back away as it gets third party taken off of him. Voxic will also fall. LG now, they are getting pushed, and this has got to be the end of them. No, not quite. Gats is still holding that high ground up to the north. It looks like they're playing more of a split than expected, but it's Toyo now coming into their own third party and on. If they can keep landing these shots, that's going to be, Typhon down to a solo.
Yeah, and Benya gets that knock from range as Benya's putting in the work here for Toyo. Blue zone's there now. Now you can see the damage per tick forcing him to move, but Falcons, realizing what's going on to their south, have thought to themselves, you know what, there is a bunch of points to be had as Capitan gets up close and personal with Typhon. nade thrown. That smoke should provide a little bit more cover here for Capitan, as Tony will wrap off into the distance. Spotted out now by Capitan, but he's getting closer and closer to the demons that are Falcons. H1 not far away at all. And I think Toyo, they've called in the Uber. They're going to get out of there and let Falcons fight with Typhon.
Really nice positioning coming out from Toyo here. They've got a player who's already made his way into zone. The rest of them are now regrouping to try and gatekeep the rest of these teams and prevent them from coming in. But it's Typhon that are taking things all on their own. Santa goes down. Only one player going to be left up. And with this util coming in from both sides, it's more so a question of how long. Falcons, they are just third-partying in, sponging up every single point that they can. They still have a difficult move to make inside zone now that Toyo is starting to group up, though. It's not straightforward, and the longer they take on this fight, the harder things will become, because the more Toyo players are able to actually get into this circle.
Yeah, Soul's the last player for working in silence, top of the leaderboard. 5 kills for them, but inside the placement points once more. The stun will be thrown. Tiggleton's holding the shack, but realizing that phase 5 will do a ton of damage. Souls, you got to push off the back of the stun, but he elects not to do so. There's that blue zone that was spoke about, and that is going to cause an issue. Tony wants to get one more point, but Souls will confirm it. But will he get the first aid off in time? I think he's just about got enough time to do it, and he does. But you'd like to think that Falcon's kick, yeah, look at him. Kicks up on the ridge line. He'll be able to pick up Souls, but I think Souls might just be blue, meting it out and playing in the blue.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate way to go, but I got to give Souls credit there. A really nice way to finish off that fight, just turning around completely. And potentially this zone is forcing Falcons to draw their attention away. I really thought that Toyo would have grouped up by now and got a bit more aggressive into the circle, but that doesn't appear to be the case, so it looks like they're both going to be sharing a ridgeline for the time being. Empire, though, this is a team that we know get aggressive, just as what it takes to, even though their performance hasn't really reflected it tonight. Kett are able to take down Valier. That is a significant frag grenade to open things up, but there's still a huge amount of distance that needs closing up. And on the other side of things, we've got Bestia just crashing straight in and wiping out so many players from Last Resource.
Yeah, Last Resource getting torn asunder here is what it takes to hold this compound as they look this way. The solar fields, Falcons doing damage onto Bestia, and you can see Toyo are in the midst of that action as well. Shrimsy closing the gap, picks up his kill. Bestia are eliminated in 7th place. There's 6 teams left alive, and soon maybe more will follow. Coda Kid here, alive and well, but for how long is the question as he goes and hits the deck. Empire, things ain't looking good for them either. Michael, the last player standing, and Sneak Attack is on his way around to try clean them up.
Sneak Attack, though, in a very open position. If he's going to get aggressive, he needs to commit onto it. And again, we need to take into account the fact we are playing third person. This is something a lot of competitive PUBG players aren't used to seeing. Michael, he was using it to his advantage, but it doesn't work out because Sneak Attack just pops up, cracks them both in the head, and finishes off Empire Gaming. Really impressive. And finally, the aggression, the level of skill that we expected from a team like What It Takes starting to show tonight after a rocky performance in our first 2 games.
That was huge from Sneak Attack, though. That kill, that came in clutch. He extended out, he used his utility, and he wiped them out. 4v4v2 for the win. Now, Falcons up to 9 kills, as it'll be Kickstart and Sharp. They're 2 highest killing players over the course of the last few PASs. You look at the numbers they put up, there's always a chance with those 2 players alive. On the other side, Toyo's 2-2 split earlier seemed a bit greedy, but now they are really making it work. Pipa getting the knock onto Sneak Attack as him and Capitan will lock down What It Takes. While on the other side of the fight, Toyo's 2 players are keeping an eye on where Falcons are.
I completely lost track of how many kills Falcons actually had. I thought it was like, maybe 5 at this point. Yeah, they've been third-partying onto a lot of fights, but this is really impressive to see. 9 kill points on the board. Even if they go out in third now, they have had a really strong performance. As What It Takes, they're going to try and regroup, get the revive, and close down the distance. They do have the hard cover, and they want to try and prevent teams from being able to use that fence to their advantage, because What It Takes know that they have to move sooner or later. They've left it a little bit late as Falcons. They've got themselves a nice little ridgeline. They really need to hope that Capitan doesn't get an angle on this, as Toyo, they're still rocking that 2-2 split, which, I mean, earlier in the game, I was all for it. now. You know, maybe last phase I was a bit shaky. Do they want to keep this going? But they've got amazing zone control out of it, so I can't fault them here.
Yeah, and look at the information Lucid's able to get. Looking through these letterbox windows, he sees Falcons moving. Benya and Emmy working together on the edge as well, as they'll just take control of center circle. That is the key for them now. Now, in TPP, it might not be as beneficial as it can be in other modes, depending on what the terrain is like, but I like how Falcons have turned their attention to what it takes over on the northeast side of the circle. The real problem occurs is if this phase 7 shift goes hard away from that compound what it takes are, they could be lambs to the slaughter. But their sneak attack, he gets a good bit of damage on the kick. The nade from Keter is even better. And now Shrimsy all alone, nade at the ready. How good is your arm?
Sneak attack. Nicely done to finish it off, but it's Falcons who fall in third. Benya gets the mini 14 shot, and it's a 4 versus 4. You know, if Sneak Attack has 10,000 fans, I'm one of them. If he has 10 fans, I'm one of them. If he has no fans, I'm no longer on this earth. And unfortunately, as big of a fan that I am not liking what it takes chances right now. Toyo just have complete control of this zone. It's going to be easy pickings here as they move out in the vehicle. It could be very difficult for what it takes to try and get anything out of this. It is wide open.
It's a wide split for Toyo, though, in this 4v4 situation. Like, a lot of 1v1s can be created by what it takes, which will give them a lot of advantage. Now, Benya, he's on the angle, but Keter spots out this isolated player. They make a Carrefour. Looks like they're going to go for a 2-1-1 themselves at what it takes. One knock could turn the tide of this battle, particularly on the Toyo. And just on cue, Benya will fall. Now, Peepa's able to trade that one back. The M4 spray is bang on the money as Sneak falls. It's a 3 versus 3. And Keter will begin smoking his way in. As you can see, Benya isolated, unresable. Sneak attack isolated, unresable. This is anybody's fight, Chunks.
It certainly is. I was, you know, concerned when I saw what it takes making that move, but I like the fact that Sneak hung around, was able to try and catch him in an off angle. It just appears it didn't work out how they planned. Keter, though, actually making a very difficult position. Look a lot stronger than it was. I don't think Toyo were expecting that player to push up over the top. There's now, Emmy trying to close in and finish off one of those players. Looks like they are going to try and stick the res here for Toyo to give them that player advantage. Only 2 players left up from what it takes, and it all comes down to Keter now up on that hill. How aggressive is he going to be? Evidently not so much. Lucid tries to land the spray, does a little bit of damage, but gets peppered himself. Caught with the headshot. That helmet is nearly gone. Only a smoke for cover. What it takes have nothing to work with here. And Capitan, even as a knock, he's going to be playing for info. He's going to be making those calls out about where Keter is. Still able to pick up an extra point, though. I mean, what it takes. Unfortunately, I don't think they have what it takes to make it out of this one.
It's a 1v2, though. It's not necessarily done and dusted. And when you look at where these Toyo players are playing, you can get isolated kills. All you got to do is divide and conquer. Now, Emmy is by the rock. Yeah, Emmy spotted him out. There's the toe shots. Great shots from Keter, though. He does a ton of damage, and that buys himself some time. Spraying through the hedge, though. There you go. There's the kill. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Toyo with a 11-kill win. 21 points on the board. And that should secure their status into the next stage. It was a great try by Keter, but the way Toyo played that whole map with a 2-2 split really did the job for them.
Toyo and leaving it until the final few games. Name a better combination. We saw this in PAS. They were a team that we expected to do well. Unfortunately, they ended up in the last chance qualifiers, and then they just absolutely turned up from there. The same has happened tonight. They started out, you know, in day one, a pretty rough set of games for them, but after tonight's performance, after this game's performance specifically, they are looking to make their way into that top 8 of the leaderboard. They are looking strong, and with only 1 game left, there's a lot of pressure on them to have another performance like that.
Yeah, there is, and this last game will confirm who the top 8 will be, who go through and progress. Now, I want to give a lot of credit, though, to Working in Silence. They played that, not Working in Silence, but What It Takes. They played that so well. You know, they wiped out Falcons at the end. A great nade came through, got the kill on the Shrimsy, and then from that point on, they almost got the job done. I said they had the divide and conquer. They got a couple of knocks on the Toyo, but in the end, Emmy was just too strong, and he got the job done alongside Pipa. But any other teams catch your eye in that game?
You know what? It isn't a team that has been one of our talking points throughout the days that we've had so far. But Banzai are really impressing me, and I know I'm focusing in on them a lot because they are on the bottom half of the leaderboard, but tonight's performance has shown real promise. When it comes down to the teams that qualify through points, they actually had the lowest number of points, I believe, to be able to qualify to the Players Cup. So to be able to make it here, they are clearly progressing, they are learning as they go, and hey, even if they don't make it through this time, I almost guarantee you will see them again in the next Players Cup, and they're going to perform even better than they have.
Yeah, remember, top 8 qualify through, so it's all about being in that position going into the final game. And as we look back towards the end of how that played, Keter with a great knock. This 2v2 became oh so winnable for them. It really came down, I think, to who got the next knock in this situation, and it was Emmy that found Lucid, left Keter a little bit isolated, and then that point on, the game was done and dusted. Chunks, let's look at the points from that last matchup, though. Anything standing out to you there other than Luminosity with the donut at the bottom?
I mean, what it takes, really impressive from them to be able to stack up that many points. They really had a flaky day number 1. They've started picking it up again. Not even day number 1, even the first 2 games of today. They've started picking it up again. I hope to see that momentum go into our final game of the evening. But also, Alcudia, yet another really strong team down in the bottom half. There's quite a few of them. Empire Gaming, considering their performances they've had so far this evening, that was disappointing for them. I'm sure when we're back on familiar territory, we'll see them pick up that momentum again. And look, they're in a strong position. I think they're confident they're in the top 8. We saw them playing about in the glider. They're just having fun right now.
That's it. And as we look at the overall leaderboard with 1 game left to play, Working in Silence, they're through. Empire Liquid the same. Falcons are as well. It is a little bit messy then, right? 48 points down to 39 between 5th and 9th. Any one of those teams could drop out of the top 8. Alcudia, they can get in there. Bestia with a big game can make it too. I think it is just a little too far away for Luminosity, but I think we've got 2 teams trying to battle it into those what's left of those top 8 spots.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, you know, if a team like Toyo, What It Takes, El Proyecto, Typhon Gaming even, if they let it slip, every other team below them is going to try and pounce. I'd expect them to play maybe a bit more of a reserve game this final match. I wouldn't expect them to get overly aggressive too early on. But again, we've seen some squads, they start those fights early, they carry that momentum over to the mid to late game, and then they end up with a, 20 point game.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you need. You need a win. Those teams, the 9th and 10th, Bestia, Alcudia, they need a win in this final game to secure their spot into the next round. Remember, over the course of this year, there are multiple tournaments to be played. $139,000 up for grabs in North America and inside of EMEA. So both regions with pretty nice prize pools. ! Register if you want to see how to get involved and get your team in there. But Chunks, we're going to take a bit of an extended break, about 3.5 to 4 minutes. We're going to go into a break. When we come back, it's the final game of the night. Stay tuned, everyone. It's going to be wild. Welcome back in, everyone, to the PUBG Players Cup, and we are almost done with our first ever iteration. Gibson and Chunks on the mic. One more game left to go, and the stakes could not be higher for Bestia and Al Qudsia, who sit on the cusp of qualification. But Chunks, that clip, that historic video that just played, was that your voice that I heard just for a little bit?
Just for a little bit, and then my internet died. So Xenox covered for me, the absolute legend. I know that in the break we were just talking about how amazing that guy is. He is a legend, like I can't put into words. But yeah, that was unfortunate. That one of the biggest moments of my career was casting that PGC, and unfortunately my ISP let me down many times during that tournament. It was not a one-off. Thankfully, they no longer exist.
Someday I hope I get to add my voice to an event like that, but we just got to wait and see. But this is the thing, Chunks, the final game of the night, the final game of the first PUBG Players Cup in the Americas where 8 teams qualify. We already know who's guaranteed to get through. Are we going to see some shenanigans from those teams that are already through, or are we going to see a roaring game to finish things off?
If you are certain that you qualified, and there's a team that you don't really want to have to deal with, it's worth trying to make something happen. It's worth being that agent of chaos, trying your best to cause them problems and hope that, you know, even if you eliminate them this week, there's still a chance they make it through next week, but you could hope that you at least deny them the opportunity to get that automatic qualification. And there's quite a few teams that are in a position now where they could just have fun with it. We may see some hot drops, and actually, speaking of which, it looks like we're getting the same hot drop from Al Qudsia onto 55 Esports as we saw last time, which that was a messy one for sure.
It was task failed successfully for Al Qudsia winning that gunfight. They shouldn't have won it, but they did. I'll be curious to see if we see the same thing happen this time around. Elsewhere, though, everything looks as fine and normal as it usually is. Falcons with their Pachinki drop. You've got Team Liquid in their George drop. And what it takes, way up in the north, have gone for Zarky, which I don't want to alarm anybody, is inside the circle. But the real question, Chunks, is do you go all in the north, do you go all in the south, or do you see a lot of teams hedging their bets and going for 2-2 splits?
I see quite a few teams probably trying to hang around the bridge area. Just off of Georgia Pole, both to the west and to the east. It wouldn't surprise me if some squads try and take Everest because you have such amazing sight lines. Even though you might not be able to get a lot of kill points early on, you'll be able to make some really good scouts and make your way into the zone in a relatively safe manner based on the information you've been able to gather. I think, though, we're going to see a lot of choke points around Rozhok, around that bridge by Everest, just because of how southeastern these teams have dropped. And then the same goes for around Yasnaya, where I'm almost certain somebody will be setting up a camp over at that gas station, and they will probably 2-2 split, looking to try and catch rotators. That is what I'm looking for from Luminosity right now if they want to keep stacking up the kills, because they do need to pick up the performance a little bit in this final game.
Meanwhile, while we're talking about that, Mixstall creeping up onto, I think it's Cowboy, keeping an eye on what's going on. Fairhopper rotating in towards Bestia. Vinny needs to pick up kills for this team if they want to qualify. And, well, Fairhopper could cause a problem. He's coming up on foot, so he's going to make very little noise. Vinny completely oblivious to it. Well, there, I think Vinny has just made a lot of noise. And he knows there's a bike, right? I feel like Vinny has realized that he's got to get out of dodge.
Yeah, definitely. I was actually wondering for a second, does Fairhopper even have a gun? Yes, he does. You know, when you get these early game fights, there's always that question of, were they able to stretch the compound? Did they maybe land early and they had to run with their fists out? Doesn't appear to be the case. OMG are going to hold on to this compound, be able to loot it up, or at least the remnants of what is left. Fairhopper just looking around. He heard the vehicle. I think he's suspicious there could be one more. But let's not forget the Bestia are still around this area. They could try and take this fight if they want to.
Yeah. One thing as well I've noticed that I do like about PvP is getting to see the drip that some of the players are wearing. Now, as I say that, we jump over to a player who's literally wearing nothing but a vest and a helmet, right? But anyways, moving on. We've seen some nice, some nice bits of gear. We've seen some OG skins. A lot Have you noticed how many like PGS and PGC skins that we've seen? There's been a lot of those.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, when you get these partner teams, for instance, there's so many players that have played at that global level and gotten those skins, you know, so I wouldn't be surprised to rock them. I still rock my PGC skins, I think. Bear in mind, I was known for the longest time for running around naked, so rocking those skins, it's big for me.
In-game or in general?
No comment, but,
no.
You know, what I do off-stream is my own business.
For you to know and us to never find out, as Mixtall has been found out by... Come on, Roth. Come on, Roth. Come on, Roth. Come on. Hit the shots. A little bit of damage. He got one. He got one bit of damage, and that should be a signal now for the rest of the players to move on up. 80 damage on the headshot. You love to see that. You wish it was a little bit more. But elsewhere, one of the teams that need points is doing damage onto El Proyecto. Posa has been abandoned by his teammate, but mine's going to fall as well. This is a really big fight for Bastion now. Haven will drop now too, as that'll be another kill confirmed. Gizera a little too far away, as he won't be able to do any damage. Haven does fall, but jumping back to D, he manages to get a great spray. Another one with a Tommy gun. He's having fun with this one, and Trisk will rotate on by. Why not? Give us another one, another headshot with a Tommy gun. Get that thing back in crates.
Oh no! How could you? This isn't right. They can't make it out of this. This isn't how it's supposed to go. Luke 12 though. Oh wow! Catches GMO off guard. Nicely done to be able to get the knock. I wonder whether FN are still going to try and push on to this. It appears so. The good thing about Everest is you can kind of have 2 or 3 teams holding it. I reckon that 2 is the maximum you can hold safely. It all depends on kind of how aggressive you want to get. There is that key ridgeline. Whoever holds kind of Alo's position right now tends to control the hillside. I say this, look at Falcon sneaking up behind. That is huge from them. Shrimsy not quite getting taken down, but H-Win does fall. 2 of the top teams in the lobby now fighting for the same side of Everest. Falcons are going to get the res, but I mean, Liquid, they are in real trouble now, pinched between a rock and a hard place, and 2 teams.
Yeah, the nade only does 5 damage on the Luke 12, but Liquid can't really push towards Falcons because they've got to deal with FN. Zello finding the knock now onto Elo as FN start to get a little bit more damage delta. Sparking will peek his way up over the ridgeline. The horns of the helmet might just give him away a little bit as the POV will help. Luke 12 repositioning the other way. Underhand molly as Alo's like, yeah, just throw the molly on top of me. I'll fall, but you'll get the point for my teammate as well. And that's exactly what happens. And you know what? It's great teamwork. I don't mind it. Liquid are qualified. They want to get an extra point, but they don't necessarily feel like they need to win the game. Luke 12 flees as Toyo's Capitan gets involved from afar.
So Toyo picking up that aggression again. It's something we saw last game, and it led to great things for them. They really need to try and get a couple more points, and they're definitely starting out with a bang. They're playing that position I kind of pointed out, holding the split around the bridge, making sure they can cover it nicely. As Liquid, they've been able to retreat into Georgia Pole crates. They should have decent cover for now. I don't expect any teams to push them. Empire, however, they're going to be getting pushed by Luminosity. Finna tries to land a spray. Again, Empire, they're safe. They're made it through to the next round. Luminosity, not quite so. Snake has taken a lot of damage as the nade comes out from Gats. Lands onto Finna as he takes the roof position. Adam tries to move in support, but right now, Finna's in no man's land and he gets punished.
Yeah, and the Finna taking down Empire, losing 1 Luminosity. I think they're a little too far away from 8th place to qualify, but they can have some fun with this game. Falcons still on top of the hill with FN not too far away. Zello will peak, but Falcons are just waiting for these FN players to overstay their welcome. Voxic gets spotted out by Michael. Adam will get the kill, but Luminosity, they have 3 players up. Gats, Bizzler, and Snakers looking to deal with Empire here on the other side is up on top of Everest in your picture-in-picture. Empire gone, but you see Falcons turning up the heat onto FN as well.
So that's 2 of our top teams out right now. Well, Liquid is still in it, just about, but that is a interesting way to start the final game. Falcons, they're going to try and continue to stack up points, but hopefully they break from the trend here of top teams going down early. Nice util usage. They should be able to loot some off of the body as well, as Tig is looking stacked up right now. As well, Falcons, they get another knock. Surely they're going to try and push off of this, and this might just be the end for FN.
Yeah, it looks like that will be it, and it's be the end of their first PUBG Players Cup as well, as they will not be up in and around the cutoff point as Falcons look to finish things with a bang on the final map of the night. Great nade from Shrimsy, confirms out Repo, and it's all down to Satera, who, I'll be honest, Satera's had some nice clips. He's had some nice spray control, he's won a couple of gunfights, but you're going up...
He's going to need a real nice clip right now, I'll tell you that.
Mate, you're going up against the EWC champions. You're not going to win a 1v4 against them, barring some divine intervention. And the intervention onto Ketter's head is going to be this Elg spray from Zinni as he finds one. What it takes, qualified through for the next stage as well. But can Banzai get themselves a nice way to finish the day as Zinni turns his attention on the Marsus and misses the chance to get shots? Marsus hits him with a 180.
I want to say Marcis should have got the kill, and then he should have died, and then somehow he got the kill anyway. That is really nice play from Marcis there. Banzai, they needed their own teammate there. I think they were expecting the push from what it takes, but that's not to be the case. It's down to a 3v3 fight unless they're able to get the res. Make it a 3v2, sneak attack with a really nice off angle, catches the spray onto Zer. Aguilazinho going to try and move down the hill, but it's too little too late as Lucid comes over the hill. So does Marcis. He lands the headshot, but it's not quite enough as now Banzai, potentially time to say goodbye to them. We knew they needed big performances coming out tonight, and unfortunately they weren't able to have that one game that would have bumped them into the top 8. I doubt that even if Loki survives this, he'll be able to get a 15 kill game ahead of him, but never say never. Lucid with a really nice headshot. He's pressured down at the hill. Loki peeks out though, takes down Marcis. Lucid's just given away his position by going for that spray. Underhand flashbang coming out. He has to push for cover, but that's not quite enough. The third person, he has to read exactly where he is. Lucid gets the kill, but it's now Alcudzia coming in. This could be the end for what it takes if they don't get the revives quickly.
And Alcudzia need this win as well. Remember, they need every point they could get. Liquid, a team that don't need anything really, other than if they want to take first spot away from working in silence, who've got them exactly where they want them. Gas station, Luke 12, down, not out just yet. Alcudzia do pick up their 5th kill as they begin to put the heat onto that 8th spot. Ruben throwing as much utility as he can. Sparking might just be curtains for the King of Brazil. He takes 35 damage, and there you go. The second he does the damage, Cowboy got a kill on the sneak attack as well, as we're down to 37 players inside of Phase 2. Alcudzia, 6 kills. I think that they are... I feel like... I can feel like this is going to be a qualification game for them.
Here comes the caster curse again. DIY is about to drive into this building, somehow kill both of them, blow the vehicle up, and they're done. But no, they've managed to survive. They do need to be cautious here. Luminosity are going to be moving in from the northeastern side. Snakers has already got that hillside. I don't expect them to spread out too much. And I mean, it's not quite a Zaki circle, but we are damn close right now. I don't think any of the teams in the lobby would have expected this off of that first plane path.
Seen a lot of these circles kind of go back towards George, and a couple have gone to that crossroads that you see Posa and the rest of El Proyecto flying over right now by T-Junction. Coda Kid up here with the Mosin in his hands, focusing on Alcudzia. Remember, I didn't cast or curse them. You're just making that one up. Yeah. As we've also got what it takes not too far away. But Phase 2, 45 seconds away from closing. The next zone shift is going to be a fun one.
It certainly will. I mean, I want to kind of see a plane crash ending. I haven't seen one of those in a long time, and I love seeing teams take those scrappy fights because, sure, you have that cover, but it is literally just like a valley. If you peek at the wrong time, you're done. And I'd be really interested to see how that plays out in third person because I don't think we've had any real urban endings so far in the games that we've seen in the Players' Cup. So we haven't really had a chance to see how that affects those positioning as Kickstart. Really nice little seat swap to take down one from TYP. Gonna pop that boost. 5 kills on the board for Falcons right now. They've qualified. They're confident, but they are still putting in work. Luminosity, they haven't, but equally so. They are putting in the force. And yeah, that should be the end of it. It should. He's just seat swapping. Not quite though. Beasley gets the knock, and that'll be the finish for Luminosity.
You know that like image of Ben Affleck outside with the can I even say what he had in the broadcast? You know the meme of him just sitting outside taking a deep breath. That was him in the car. He was done. He was just like, get me out. I'm done. I'm ruined.
I mean, the car sure was smoking.
Yeah. There you go.
Last resource. Come on, Cruxy. Go for that spray. Try and get your knock. No, not going to happen. Sills isn't going to be able to get away safely. It looks like LG, though. They're actually getting ready to take a compound fight now.
Yeah, why not? Why not have some fun with it? You're pushing on. Oh, my. That was really well done by J08, but too many players from LG were there. Luminosity do the business. Gats is down. They pick up another. That's 8. I ruled them out. But they've already got 8 kills. They might not just be done just yet. Gizera turns his attention towards Typhon now as El Proyecto locked down that T-junction compound. I said it usually kicks towards there in George Pole. It did just that.
I mean, it's not super surprising, but now we've got kind of 2 potential... Oh, let's ignore that for a second. Let's focus on DIY because, very tricky position. Now, unfortunately, not to be. El Proyecto going to try and sponge out the kills. Should be able to get at least a point out of this one as they take down Cowboy. Let's talk about this circle for a minute because you've got a difficult decision to make now. You either go for these very barren fields where, granted, there's a lot of little dips you can play. You could hope that you don't get crash, but there is still the potential we go down to George Pole. Now, one of my favourite endings in this area is actually that crossroads area just up to the north where El Proyecto are holding. That is one where I've seen so many games end where you'll have kind of 2 teams on each side of the crossroads and then 1 or 2 in the compound. They're always really messy endings. And again, I want to see how that verticality aspect comes into play when we get to those CPP end games, because we haven't really had too many of them as far as I can recall in the Players Cup so far. So that'd be really interesting to see if they play out any differently. Yeah,
I've seen that ending a lot of times. Well, Chunks and Utility really is the difference maker in circles like that, as the teams on either side of the road will just throw Utility left, right, and center. Toyo will pick up a point. Emmy getting that kill onto Kickpome as they control that ladle hill. Yep, I call it ladle because if you look at it, it looks like a ladle that you use for stirring some soup. Rello all alone. Alcudsia don't need this negativity in their lives. Remember, I'm not going to take back what I said earlier. I still think that they're on their way to progression, but you eat a headshot that, it ain't going to help in the blue zone. Thrown in perfectly off the back of it as well. Rello, you got to be careful, son, because Luminosity are on the prowl.
Circles popped. Crossroads is actually looking quite likely right now. This will be an interesting one. Just focusing on Luminosity, though, they might have a tricky rotate ahead of them. Fairly open hillside that they have to try and work down. They should be able to play this ridge for a little bit longer, but I would guess that they end up going to be playing that little ridge down by the northern road for a little bit of cover. Falcons, they're playing a ridge of their own. They've got 2 teams to try and navigate here. Toyo, they played a really wide split yet again, and this time they could potentially get punished. However, they do have those players third party providing that support, and that could give Capitan the opportunity to get out of dodge.
Yeah, and the question is, are Falcons in a position to take advantage of it? You've got Capitan on one side, Benya on the other, and then a little further south you can just see that other silhouette, which is worth keeping an eye on because at any point Pipa could be a problem. 368 damage for Tig as he's doing a pretty nice job as he reskins the vehicle over. 7, obviously the number on the board, but we're of course celebrating the 8th birthday of this game that we all love so much. And Pipa, I said it, would be an issue. Pipa does get the knock and flush. Capitan was knocked on the other side of things, but for Toyo down to a 2, Falcons managed to confirm out an extra point.
Nothing makes me happier than seeing a vehicle kill, even if it is just a flush. Nicely done there from Kickstart to be able to pick it up. Toyo, they are in a very tricky position right now. They want to try and make it into the zone. They've got a long way to go, an open hillside, and I don't think that they've taken into account Coda Kid just yet. I don't know whether they've got a read on his exact position. I think they've heard that he was shooting, but they're not sure exactly where from. As Falcons, well, they're going to be well aware of working Silence's position, but they need to be more cautious, potentially, about Kudsia now as Roth gets the third party.
Yeah, and Roth, remember, they need the points. Alcudsia, Rello is going to get dealt with by LG. They were sitting in 10th place, I believe, actually 11th place, I think it was, they were in, and they are now really closing that gap to the top 8. Another player falls, another team falls. The placement point window is almost open as Roth now is the last standing Alcudsia player. Working in silence, top of the leaderboard. They've got all of the south to themselves as it's another kill on the board for Luminosity. They're up to 10 kills now.
Really, really impressive game from them, and it's what they needed. They needed to come in strong to this last one. They were lacking behind quite significantly in terms of the standings. Equally so, what it takes, they were on the cusp of being able to make it in. They've still got Lucid up, but Toyo have now moved into this compound. When the rotation inevitably comes in, they are really going to struggle, or should I say he will really struggle. 3 kills on the board. They need a lot more points than that. They will be able to get a 4th by the looks of things, but to be able to get a 5th with Toyo...
Oh, Lucid.
Never mind. Looks like he was able to. 5 kills on the board. 1 placement point so far. He's made some noise. Luminosity are going to be looking down in this direction. Let's just hope that they get distracted sooner rather than later.
Yeah, you never forget, Chunks. Don't ever rule Lucid out. This kid can pull out some big plays out of a hat when he needs to. Roth still alive. Remember, 6 kills for Al-Qudsiya inside the placement points, but is it going to be enough? As he just tries to find another... What he wants to find is a bit of a hedge or a place like this that's just enough of a dip that players will really struggle to see him in. Bestia, they were on the hunt for one of those final spots, but they have only got 1 player up, and that's Silzen. He's given up with the shield up, which will really give away his position. And you got Falcons on one side and Luminosity on the other.
Yeah, this is a very brutal zone as we head closer and closer to Crossroads. I'm really surprised that there isn't anyone playing those ridges up by the Crossroads just yet, but for the time being, a lot of teams still... Well, I say a lot of teams. We've still got a team that hasn't made it into zone. Luminosity are a little bit split. They've got a player playing that entry point. That's what Snakes is doing. He's kind of clearing, and the rest of the team are going to backfill now. They're going to look to try and take out Silzen. They know that they're clear from behind. This is going to be a really good dip for them to play now, because the only side they really have to worry about is the northeast. And now they've cleared that out. They know they're safe. Working in silence, though, again, they leave it a little bit till the late game. Then they start picking up the kills. That's another knock. It could potentially convert over to a 3rd kill, but Shrimsy quick to return fire.
Yeah, Ruben was being pushed back by the blue zone near an excellent one by Falcons here as Shrimsy's blue zone will confirm or get that knockdown. Now, working in silence with a lot of work to do if they want to deal with Falcons and get the res off. Now, Kickstart gets double blue zoned as he will be wiped out as well as what it takes do fall. Another placement point goes towards Al-Qudsiya. Another placement point goes towards Luminosity as they get closer and closer to qualification. And it is that circle that we spoke about to finish things off here, Chunks. It's the T-junction. It's teams on either side of the road. It's El Proyecto locking down the compound for themselves, while Typhon, they just have Psycho. He's having a great time all by himself way up to the north.
I'm just surprised that they're playing these ridges down to the south, but I guess there isn't as much competition as you usually see in these kind of end games. LG, they've split up down that southern road. They're using it for everything they can. Based off the player count, I think it's safe to assume for these teams there's going to be a couple of solos to deal with. El Proyecto have made a lot of noise so far this game, so I think that LG are aware that there's at least a 4-man in there, and they're just putting down a lot of fire, which I've got to give them credit for. Really nice shots from Kraken to take down Voxic. Should be able to get the revive onto that, but still, it's getting those knocks. It makes it so the next time they get knocked, they bleed even quicker, and there it is. That's the Crossroads ending that I was hoping for, albeit I would have liked some more players left.
It does feel like it either always goes to this Crossroads or to George whenever you get a circle like this. And it did go towards Crossroads. Now, Roth, he's still pretty happy. A couple of extra placement points. As you can see, El Proyecto cannot quite see him. The ridgeline working in his favor. But the problem for Roth could be the rotation that Working in Silence elect to take. Luminosity, a win here with a couple more kills really puts them into the race. Now remember, they needed I think they needed like, what was it, 25, 26 points plus if they wanted to qualify. They've got the kills. Like, they just need a few more and the win, and they're right in the mix, and it looks like they're full sending it for the compound. Now, it's not a traditional crash where you'll see action straight off the bat. It's more so, let's get our feet, let's touch base inside the warehouse and build our game from there.
This is an NPL finish if I've ever seen one, I'll tell you that much. As the circle starts to close in, Psycho going to move around to the south. It looks like he was maybe expecting LG to stay on that ridge, and instead they've given it up, so he's going to make the most out of it. You got decent cover from that compound. It really becomes a bit of a waiting game right now. El Proyecto, they want to get more kills on the board. That's the big thing for them, but they've only got 2 players. Now that they're being crashed, there's a lot of pressure. I'm surprised they haven't tried to regroup, stay as a duo. duo. I know it puts you at risk to nades, but at least you can play for trades, maybe grab a couple of extra kill points out of it. I would even argue maybe both group up over on the western side of the compound, so the chances of actually getting pushed by a 4-man as a duo, they're at least negated for a short amount of time, as it looks like Sold's now going to send it in. Roth is laying prone, but somehow he has not yet been spotted. I told you this was an NPL style game. Not for long though, as Solds gets the kill. That's how Kudzi out in 6th. I'm not sure that they've made it. I think it's going to be close.
I think they're right on the bubble, and I think it all depends on what Luminosity do, but it was curtains. The way you saw Souls peeking, he was like, yeah, there's something sus about that bush. That bush looks a bit sus.
It's the drip that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. 5 teams left alive, 11 players inside the server. El Proyecto, like Kraken's pro, and he's trying to do some scouting work from inside of this position. I'd like to see him be a bit more aggressive. You know, you've got cover. It's not necessarily a situation where you can't do it that way. But Luminosity, 11 kills. They need a couple more and the win to get over that line.
It's not a sure thing just yet, though, is it? I mean, this zone could still pull away. I mean, I'd be surprised if there's a zone where this compound isn't somehow in. But there's still a possibility here. There's still teams that they have to try and navigate. There's a couple of different solo players, and we are going right onto that crossroad. So I think it's going to be a bit of a slow burn now, Gibson. I don't think anyone's going to get super aggressive. I think Falcons are slowly going to try and work their way up this ridge. They need to be very careful here for working in silence. That is a team that just put up consistent performances, and they haven't really made themselves known outside the vehicle. I think right now it's just going to be a waiting game till that zone closes in, and potentially Falcons could end up exposing themselves. Shrimsy is just focusing on sneaking while Tig puts down that covering fire.
You say it's going to be a very slow game as we watch Shrimsy with the Shrimsy with the slowest belly crawl rotate into the circle we have ever seen. And while all that's going on, Tiggy is hunting rabbits here from the outside of the circle. He wants everybody to be very, very quiet. But they will run eventually in towards working in silence. That's the team that you feel like will be a problem, because looking at El Proyecto, they've been so passive with peeking on these windows that they've not really had a big impact. Now, the team that has been proactive is Luminosity, as Snakers will find the knock on the Tig, and that's another kill on the board. 12 for them as they get closer and closer to victory. Shrimsy falls at the hands of Souls. It's another point for placement for Luminosity, but you feel like they need even more of these kills. They need more points. The max they can get is another 5 plus the extra placement points. I think they can do it. I think they're close.
I mean, it's starting to lean more and more in their favor, and we need to pay attention to what teams it is that are actually going down right now. Working in silence still have 2 players left up. They're already secure. We've got Falcons. They're already secure. So it starts to open up a bit more space now for these teams that are kind of on the cusp but aren't at the very top end of the leaderboard to gather those points. So I think regardless of whether LG win or not, it's certainly going to be close around that 8th place markers. I mean, that nade from Snakers just looks spot on. One more of those, he's down to 2 HP. If it's a little bit closer, that's the end of him. 3 HPs on right now. Surely Psycho can't get the med off in time.
Oh,
it's
no,
not
he
to be.
denied!
Typhon Gaming goes down to his own frag, denying the point for LG. I think they realised that it was LG and just how close things are looking right now. But that's into the top 3. And, I mean, between the 2 other teams, they only just match the number of players that LG have.
Psycho's gone down, in my estimation. Psycho, you can't deny there. Come on. Luminosity need the points, and you're going to go down to your own nade at the edge of the zone. Luminosity, though, they're still in with a chance of getting the win. 4 up. It's a 4v2v2. El Proyecto with 2 players inside the compound. 2 players then prone on the other side of the road, with the circle shifting even heavily more in favor of this compound. And usually what you would see now in this situation, Chunks, is, you know, working in silence would smoke wall their way across to the building that you see, the red one, where El Proyecto are next door to. But I saw earlier, they didn't have a lot of smokes. At one point, they had 1. Now, I think having raided Roth, they will have gotten a couple more. And here is that push we're spoken about. You smoke your way over across the road, and you make your way up and over the ridge line. You could do it in the car. It'll be a lot quicker and maybe safer, but they're going to go the on-foot route with the smokes on the windows as well. They're making sure there's no rats with a POV.
Oh, this is big as well. Gat's able to get a knock. I was going to say, I think Working in Silence might have actually been making those smokes too early, but that third party from Gat's really opens things up now. They can try and stick to this wall, but obviously a lot of util is being used. Voxic just throwing out every single frag in his inventory to try and finish off this squad. Santa takes down a little bit of damage, but not going to be too significant. They should still have some boots in reserve. Now, if we pay close attention to the minimap and where this Phase 8 zone is going to finish off, because ultimately when we go to Phase 9, it closes until it's closed. LG have the advantage. They have the zone position. It's El Proyecto that have to come to them, but they don't care about that. The Bizzler getting aggressive, jumping through the window. I'm not sure whether he's aware of this player that's upstairs. Working in Silence, they're the ones that are under the most pressure right now. They have to make the move first, and ultimately, if LG are covering those angles, there is no way that Working in Silence can get across that gap without completely exposing themselves, unless they somehow have more smokes, which based on that smoke wall they just used, I highly doubt.
13 kills now is the number for LG. Snakers has gone the other way across the road to get the off angle on the Working in Silence if they elect to push this way. Great smoke sent out there by Working in Silence that will cut off that line of sight. That's but the Bizzler's not too far here away. He needs off the balcony. But the players from Working in Silence, they're on the low ground. Let's not forget about Gizera as well. He's holding the building that's not too far away from center. But at some point, Working in Silence need to step out. The MK in full auto. It's not enough. Snakers gets the knock with the AUG here. He goes down to 5 HP, Chunks. But it's now 4v1v1. Stun grenade thrown towards Bizzler. He's going to be full blind, and Souls is going to find the knock and the flush instantly. It's all coming down to the wire here, Chunks. 3v1v1.
LG just have to wait this out. They just have to wait. El Proyecto, that final player, he has to make a move in. He's medding up as best he can. That zone is closing. I think LG think this is all one squad, but evidently not anymore. Is this going to distract them? Absolutely not. Gaps finishes off the job. LG, when they needed it most, get 16 kills and a chicken dinner. 26 points. Surely, Gibson, that has to be enough to make the jump. We said going into that last game, it was like a 15, 20 point difference, all the way down to, you know, I think it was 12th place. Surely that's got to be enough to make it through.
I don't know, because they were more than 20 points behind. The question is, what did the team in 8th do? What did the team in 7th do? Did they get enough to bypass Al Qudsiya as well? We won't have to wait too long. But highlights of that game, that 3 kill from the monster that is D with a Tommy gun to kick things off. That was fun to watch.
That was amazing to watch, and what an end game. We kind of had a feeling it could go to the crossroads. I don't think either of us expected it to, and that was just beautiful play from Luminosity right there. As soon as they identified the push coming across the road with the smoke wall, they made the most out of it. Beautiful to see.
And they started off, right? Luminosity played that game with a mission. They knew they were a long way off, and they knew they had to get a huge kill total to get the win. So what they did was just play aggressive from the very first moment. They took that end game. They knew they had the numbers. You saw it at the end. Souls got the extra point here for Working in Silence, as they wanted to confirm out top spot for them inside of the first ever PUBG Players Cup. But winner, chicken dinner. Luminosity got it on the board, and look, 26 points. Was it enough?
You gotta think so. I mean, you just gotta think so. But then again, there were some teams that were on the cusp that might have also been able to make that jump. I'm sure Luminosity have knocked a couple of them down a peg, but there's still the opportunity for squads like What It Takes, Al Qudsiya, Toyo, teams that were on the cusp that got a handful of points. And then when you look at the top end of the leaderboard, I mean, Working in Silence, Falcons, they were already locked in. I'm pretty sure El Proyecto were in a good position as well. So it's going to be close when we go on to that final standing.
100%. Bestia, they were on the hunt. They only got 5, so they're not going to be in that top 8. You know, Al Qudsiya, they might have just scraped in, and there you have it. Ooh. And it wasn't right.
1 point.
Right. No, here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say right now. Placement points is the decider. What was done to Luminosity at the end of that game that stopped him from getting one more point.
It was that deny.
There was a deny. If he didn't deny, they're in.
Blocked them from getting in. That is heartbreaking for Luminosity. If that nade had just landed ever so slightly quicker, they would have made it. That is, without a doubt, one of the closest leaderboards I've seen in a long time. And a couple of those squads we were talking about that were on the cusp, What It Takes, Toyo, just about able to solidify their position. But wow, that deny has really changed the game right there. That is a huge way to end. But credit to Working in Silence for taking that first place with a significant margin.
I wouldn't. Yeah, they were dominant over the 2 days, but the fact that the team that denied were already secure in 6th place as well, it's a rough one. It's a rough one for Luminosity, but you know what? Toyo, they don't mind. A South American team helped them get in, so your top 8 qualifying through to the next phase of our TTP events are Working in Silence, Team Liquid, Empire. Yeah, the leaderboard's gone, so it's going to give us this perfect view. Falcons, El Proyecto, Typhon, What It Takes, and Toyo. But Chunks, that is only half of the lobby. There's going to be another set of scrims, and then there's going to be another 16-team lobby where the other 8 that qualify will be in the lobby with us 8.
Yeah, and you know, if you want to get the opportunity to play against these 8 teams, play against some of the teams that didn't qualify this week, you need to make sure to get involved. You're just going to be 16 plus, do ! Register in chat. It is free to take part. You just got to play those scrims throughout the week, get yourself those points, and ultimately get into the next Player Cup, which is in 2 weeks, roughly, if I remember correctly. I'm bad with my dates.
Yeah, well, you'd want to know because it's us working it again. So you need to make sure your calendar is in place. Now, that is not it from PUBG this week, though. There's only the small matter of PEC and PAS still to come. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you will have games kicking off. It'll be PEC first, and then straight after, PAS will be on, where, of course, we will signal which teams will qualify for PGS from both of those regions. So plenty of PUBG still to come for FPP and TPP fans. It is a great time to be alive. But Chunks, anything to say before we wrap up on the night?
It's good to be back. That's all I have to say. It is, you know, this week has all been about nostalgia for me. There is so much that I have missed. There is so many things from the old school kind of 2017 PUBG. You know, I'm thinking all the way back to like Gamescom, the inception of PUBG Esports. It is amazing to see that these players have adapted so well. Some teams that we were not aware of have really thrived. I am happy to be back, and I cannot wait, because it feels like this is a big moment for PUBG going forward, and I am so excited to potentially see what changes throughout the year.
Great to have you back, and eyes are looking forward. Remember, tune in Friday, PEC, PAS. Some of the players taking part were playing tonight. Some are in chat right now, so best of luck to them. Yeah, I see you, Shane. Much love your way. But guys, from myself, from Chunks, from our production team at WasDefy, we want to say thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Take care and have a good one.
time. Don't say I never told you.